Time to stream. Hello, everybody.
Everybody hear us okay?
Joe's getting everything set up over here. I'm going to go ahead and put this on here. Is everybody having an awesome Monday? I hope you are. We've been very busy today. I've been working on stuff all day. I've got a couple releases this week. They're going to be really cool.
We've got a standard podcast release coming out this week called The Hidden War. It's about government efforts to combat and contain strange phenomenon in humanoids, cryptids, all of that.
Yep, it's going to be really good. We had a lot of fun recording that podcast. That's going to be a dark dive episode. So we're really looking forward to sharing that with you all. And we have that LBL video I've promised forever is finally coming. So
yeah, that's where we dipped in the LBL after the Dogman conference and went back and checked out Station 16.
Yeah,
so,
we found a lot of really cool stuff out there. And I had Joe kind of watch a little bit of the video today, and I think it looks pretty good.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. So that'll probably be out, what, Friday?
Yeah, I'll release that on Friday. That way you've got a Monday, Wednesday, Friday Hellbent Holler week. You can be with us all week. So look for that on Friday. I know that a lot of people are having a hurricane coming through, so you can just sit at home and watch Hellbent Holler videos.
Yeah, we were actually planning on going out. We had a 4-day investigation planned this weekend, an area that we were going to go check that Jesse experienced some weird activity recently, but I think we're going to get rained out.
Yeah,
we might go brave the elements, but the weather usually makes tracking a lot easier because of the mud. But it limits your camera use. You can't really use the thermals that much. Audio doesn't really work because all it picks up is the rain, but we still might head out a bit. So,
yeah, we'll do what we can with what we got. But it is so good to see everybody in here tonight. Let's see who we've got.
Got the usual suspects.
We've got the usual suspects, of course.
So, Bart Nunley's on. Everybody wish Barton a happy birthday. It was his birthday this week. He's the ripe old age of 25 years old. So just a strapping young man.
Just a young man.
With a love for young humanoids. So
oh God.
So anyway, guys, as usual, we don't really have on the live streams, we don't usually come in with an agenda.
No, we're just all hanging out. And everybody can kind of throw some questions, some topics, and then we'll all just discuss it and go from there. Last week we went into giants and government cover-ups and all kinds of good stuff.
All sorts of crazy stuff. And by the way, while we're on the subject of Barton has a YouTube channel that he started up, The Inhumanoids with Barton Nunley. We've got a link to that on our community page we put up a few days ago.
Yep, it's Inhumanoid Encounters with Barton Nunley. If you guys want to check that out, make sure you go and give him a subscribe and go watch his videos and check him out. Of course, it's Barton, so it's going to be good stuff.
Yeah, and it's one of the channels that it's going to definitely turn out some good content. Barton's pretty much exactly aligned with us as far as like our thoughts on the phenomena and all that. So
you're making Barton nervous now. He's going to be like, "Oh God, they have high hopes. They have too high hopes." Yeah, exactly.
Too much pressure, guys. Too much pressure. So.
Yeah.
So hey, we do have some good news. We've been talking about this ever since we started these live streams.
Oh yes, I got to go to the post office today.
Yeah, so we did our infrasound episode, which was met with some mixed feelings. But our plan all along has been to kind of get in and actually test for some of the physical effects that people report after they have an experience with a creature, with the UAPs, strange lights, or anything like that. So one of the things we wanted to do was test for infrasound, because infrasound's bandied around so much, but nobody's ever really looked for it. So we have today, this is part of what we have. This is an infrasonic detection device. This is modified from what they usually use. What they usually use is not very mobile. It has to be hooked up to some stationary equipment. They use versions of this for everything from detecting meteorites that enter Earth's atmosphere, because those give off infrasound, a pretty particular frequency. They do it for elephant research, stuff like that. People have used it to test out wind farms that have gone into populated areas like neighborhoods and everything like that. Ours is modified so that we can actually use it on the go in the field. It'll run off an external power source. It's got LED lights here, so we won't have to have it hooked up to the actual monitor or a computer or anything like that. We'll be able to get a pretty decent reading far as like the sound pressure of anything under 20 hertz on sound. So we'll actually be able to do on-site infrasound testing from now on. So if we get reports of people who say they feel like they've been quote unquote zapped, this is one of the tools we're going to go in and use to check it out. We've got that. Now we've had some other stuff as well that we've had for a bit. We've got a tri-field meter. You've seen these on ghost shows and stuff like that. There's a couple other people who are Bigfoot researchers out there that use these. But got a tri-field meter that will be able to pick up the electromagnetic waves. And then we have a pretty decent Geiger counter as well that we picked up. These are all commercial grade stuff, but they're pretty good commercial grade. So it's a GMC 500. So we're going to be able to go out of these areas and actually try to get some pretty good data as far as what we find out here.
Yeah. So what is affecting these people? Is it infrasound or is it EMF? Is it radiation? We don't know. So we have all of these tools and this equipment to go out and actually test that and kind of put those theories to the test. And so we're going to go out, we'll get some baseline readings, and then we're going to do what we do. We're going to investigate. We're going to go around areas that we have actually had activity in. I figured that'd be the best thing to do is go somewhere where we have had actual activity.
Or we get reports of activity. We get people, we're getting tons of emails and messages every day. A lot of it in our particular region that we're in, the Southern Appalachians. So we're going to actually be able to go out and test for some of this stuff. And who knows what we're going to find. I mean, we've picked up radiation in areas where there shouldn't be high levels of background radiation before, but there have been Bigfoot sightings there.
Yeah.
We have a tri-field meter, and then we have a few other EMF detectors that measure lower on the EMF range. They're kind of like low frequency detectors. So the big thing for all of this, guys, is that, again, we don't operate out of vehicles. We operate on foot.
Out of backpacks. Everything we carry with us, like all of our equipment has to be able to go into our backpack and actually go into the field and go out miles and miles deep into the woods with us.
Yeah, it has to be somewhat durable. So people will occasionally suggest other models of particular pieces of equipment for us. We always like to hear that. But it has to be backpack portable.
Yeah.
Has to have a decent battery life. Has to be somewhat rugged, able to kind of get bashed around in a pack and used in maybe like not very sterile conditions out in the field and all that. So, so I think we've got a pretty good toolkit right now to go out. And this infrasound detection thing was the last real piece of the puzzle that I was waiting for. They were able to kind of mod one up for us. And I'm really excited to take out and use it.
Yeah.
So
it's going to be really cool. It's going to be fun to just test for infrasound. And we're going to be in such a remote area every time we do this that there is no chance for any kind of interference from anything else. We're not going to be near anything that should be producing infrasound.
Yeah, there's naturally occurring infrasound, but we'll be able to get baseline readings. And again, we're not going to nerd out too much with it tonight. But again, what you get to is that if infrasound's causing these physical effects that people are getting, it's really strong infrasound.
Yeah.
It's going to max out the readings on this device. There's not going to be any missing it. Infrasound, because it's a low wave. That's why elephants use it to communicate. Whales, it travels a long distance. So if there's anything in the immediate vicinity that's using it, we're going to be able to pick it up.
And as far as I know, no other research team has gone out and tested for infrasound, have they?
No. Some people have tried to generate it. You can't really generate it with like a standard subwoofer. You've got to have some pretty specialized equipment, because we've looked into it, because I wanted to generate infrasound as well to see if anything would kind of come in and look at it. We're still kind of working that out, but that's going to be really difficult to do on foot. So I don't know if that's going to be something that's plausible or not. But it's funny, because when I found this equipment, I was trying to build something on my own. And as I was doing it, I came across this company that made this stuff, and they were at that point making them for elephant researchers. And they had a batch that were going to Africa. So I contacted them and talked to them about a little bit about what we needed. And on the recommendation page that they had after our conversation, I noticed that they had updated it for all the different uses that you would have. They put in like paranormal and Bigfoot research in there.
So we've added something to their business.
Yeah, there. We're ahead of the wave here, man.
So we're gonna go ahead. You want to get started with some
stuff? Let's just go through some comments. If you guys have any questions or anything like that, or questions about the equipment or anything we've got going on, chime in, man. We'll
Yeah,
try to do our
so
best to go through
our
them.
buddy
So.
Stephen Taylor says, have you heard that there's a third missing 411 doc coming out? Yes. So this is more of a focus on UFOs and UFO encounters and abductions. So I'm just really happy that David Paulides is finally publicly connecting the dots between missing people and UAPs. And these lights in the sky and missing people and portals. And he started with portals in the second one.
Yeah, he started with portals. And if you've seen him speak and heard him speak off the cuff and like just appearances and all that, he's been beating around this bush for like a while.
Yes.
That TV special that he did, they went really in depth into portals. And you could kind of see, even though he wasn't going to say out loud what he thought it was, he was laying some breadcrumbs down. So with this, I think that you can really tell that he is, especially if you watch, I can't watch all of it. He releases like 5 videos a week, it seems like, but whenever I check his channel, it seems like he's getting less and less out of just a standard like flesh and blood, or there's some sort of like earthly cause to a lot of the missing cases that he does.
He avoided for a long time even mentioning, he was involved with MUFON. He's involved with Bigfoot research. And then now, he did the missing 411, but he had it all compartmentalized. He had it all separated for so long. And he kind of refused to connect the dots between all of them.
But boy, if you ever see him and Ron Moorhead in an event together, because Ron Moorhead doesn't pull any punches about what he thinks. Yeah,
we went to the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot conference last year, and it was like the highlight of any conference I've ever been to, was seeing them on a panel at the end of the conference together. And
they just kind of feed off each other.
It was great. It was awesome.
David Paulides loses a little bit of his reservation that he has, where he's so reserved all the time, and just starts like laying it out. And you can tell that he believes in some pretty out there stuff, which seems like some of that out there stuff's being kind of validated nowadays.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Appreciate you two avoided the weird kindergarten drama that plagues other cryptid channels. Yeah, we don't really do that. We even touch upon that on the podcast episode we have coming up, just because I still stand by it. I still stand by the fact that we are foolish if we don't think that there's an organized effort going on to derail
and distract
discussion and investigation into these entities.
Yeah.
And I think every time you kind of let somebody get under your skin, you don't know whether that person's just making an offhand comment or that person is purposely trying to derail you. So we just block it and move on, man. I mean, we don't really, doesn't really, but you know what, overall though, everybody's been extremely accepting of us.
Most everybody's been very nice.
We've been doing this for a while separately, then a little bit together. And then we kind of did the YouTube channel after our Panther Town experience. But as far as like the social media aspect of it, we're still pretty new on the scene, you know what I'm saying? But everybody's been really, really accepting and very, very nice and cool with us so far.
Well, here's the thing. We were talking about this earlier, is we just don't have time. We both work full time and we both do this full time. It's like 2 full-time jobs. And then we have to, we have like normal life stuff. So honestly, we just don't have time for it. So even if it reared its ugly head, I just don't have time. So
Johnson Farm, you guys may be using some of those devices tonight if you're any more knocking. Yeah, last week was weird, man. Last week was very weird.
Yeah, if you tuned in last week, we had technical issues. We had like a knocking outside the house.
The Wi-Fi on our computers, not the internet here, but just the Wi-Fi connection on our computers kept turning off by itself.
And then there was a growling. I think somebody said that they actually heard the growling on
Tracker. Our friend Tracker said he heard it. He was listening on some pretty good headphones and actually heard that. So hopefully this week's going to be pretty easy, pretty drama-free. So, Mike Spenny, you going to have extra external power? Yeah, we've got, I go heavy on various sizes of external power for stuff. Now, the infrasound doesn't take a whole lot of external power. That's going to run off a 9-volt battery. That was the best thing that we could work up for it. So we'll have a few extra on those. Everything else takes normal batteries. But then we carry usually a couple of pretty powerful brick chargers with us to keep stuff. Because I've said that in the past. If you want to know whether somebody does this or not actually out in the field, talk to them about how they keep their equipment charged up. It's a pain. You know what I'm saying? So, but you've got to be able to keep that going. So, especially the stuff that has internal batteries. So.
All right, I've got one.
Okay.
What chest rig do you use? What do you keep in it? So we both carry Hill People gear chest rigs. I have the Recon Snubby because I'm smaller, and he has just the regular Recon. Mine has a single pouch. His has, I think, 2 pouches to it. But we both carry our firearms in it when we go out into the woods because it's absolutely necessary that you are armed when you go into these situations, because these are dangerous situations. If you actually believe that there is a Sasquatch out there, you actually believe that there is a Dogman out there, and that these things could possibly injure you or kill you, or there's a bear out there. Let's talk non-cryptid, threats that are actually out there. So we both carry guns. We both go armed. So
Jesse actually got a new pistol this week.
I did. Yes, I did. I got a Glock 29. So it's a 10 mil short frame that I really, really, really love. And I have video on my Instagram where I'm shooting it. So it's a really, really, really nice.
James Parker wants to know what tourniquets you prefer.
Okay, so I usually carry cat tourniquets, but
CAT. So it's, what does the CAT stand for? What's the acronym?
What is that? It's
something American.
Something, I don't know. Cat tourniquets. They're made by North American Rescue. But I've heard really good things about the soft T, the Special Forces tourniquet, that you could reuse it. The cat tourniquet, you're supposed to only use it one time. So I have about 3 of those, and that's what I carry. I just got certified for wilderness first aid last week. So it's definitely important that you carry one of those. I always keep one in my bag. I keep one in my work bag, and I keep one in my car. So
Master, can you carry national parks? Yeah, you can carry in national parks, national forests. The LBL is a national recreation area, so you can't carry there. But national forests, national parks, you usually can't carry in any sort of like building, like if there's a visitor center or if you need to go into a ranger station or anything like that. Generally, you cannot carry there, but you always want to check, because national parks and forests are usually within states as well. Sometimes they span a couple of different states, but it's always a good idea to call and check up before you get hemmed up, man. I mean, considering those are nationally controlled areas is what I'm looking for. You don't want to run across any federal charges for anything like that. So,
yeah.
All right. We touched upon this. What type of firearms do y'all take out? I carry a Glock 20. She carries a Glock 29 short frame nowadays. So
yeah, so we're both on 10 millimeter now. So that's gonna stop something, don't you think?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Carry that Underwood ammo with it. So you want to carry enough gun, that's for sure.
Rick Gibbs, didn't you guys say the other day that the state of Kentucky has a ton of high strangeness? The state of Kentucky has a ton of high strangeness, an absolute ton.
And it's not just centralized in any particular area.
Like I think just throw a dart at the map and then you're going to have something weird going on there. So
we first got into doing Kentucky stuff with the LBL, and it's just kind of grown out from there. It's just spiraled out of control, that we started with the LBL, and now we're going to all these different other parts of Kentucky and researching all these different parts of Kentucky. And we're finding out that it is just insane all over the state. It doesn't matter where you go. It seems like there's these strange clusters of high strangeness and paranormal activity and strange deaths going on all the time.
And I don't care what sort of phenomena you're researching, you're going to find instances of it in Kentucky. You're going to find some of the more extreme cases of it in Kentucky. You're going to then immediately start finding other weird phenomena in that immediate area. Everything from magnetic anomalies to strange animal attacks, upright canines, Sasquatch, UFOs, ghost stories, the Bell Witch, everything like that. So it's just, Kentucky is just chock full. I always talk about it, the fact that it's a statewide Skinwalker Ranch. Basically, everybody's focused on Skinwalker Ranch so much right now. Well, Kentucky's a whole state of that, for some reason. So,
gets
10 millimeters still hard to find. Yeah, we have to. That's a weekly hunt for us.
Yeah, every day, every time we go out to eat,
we have to stop by 2 or 3 spots and
we
pick
go
up
out
a little
for
bit at a time.
Our weekly going out to eat time. We always stop at Academy and Sportsman's Warehouse and Cabela's and everywhere. So we stop in and we always look for it. So we buy a box or 2 every week when we can find it, because it is kind of hard to find.
David Hunt, would a gun really stop a Sasquatch or a Dogman? I don't think it would, to be honest. You know what? I hope we don't ever get put in the position to find that out, but there have been stories that coming out right now. Joe from Michigan talked about shooting one at close range with a 45 long Colt in the face, like in the eye socket, and taking it out.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I stand by the fact that I think that there's more than one type of entity that's feeding into what we consider Sasquatch. There's more than one type of entity that's feeding into what we think of as far as a Dogman goes. Some of them may be more ephemeral, more like less physical, more spiritual, demonic, or whatever. And then others, I think, are flesh and blood enough that you can take a chunk out of one. So,
and I'd rather go armed and give it
Yeah.
a try.
Yeah, then
It's
just-
like, I mean, I don't want to have the attitude of, oh, I don't think this is going to do anything to this creature, so let me just go out there completely unarmed and completely just vulnerable to whatever comes at me. So it doesn't matter. You still need to try to protect yourself no matter what.
Matt Keen told us about his portal experience. Yeah, I'm actually going through. I saw your other couple of emails right now. We're getting just a ton of emails.
Yeah.
So I saw your other two. I've got to read tonight when we get done here, Matt. And I'll get back to you because you've got some weird stuff going on. And I did see the photo of that cursed object, which I have not shown you yet. And
no.
It looks like a cursed object. If you
looks like
looked at the photo and said, "What is this a picture of?" Cursed object would probably be in the top 3 guesses that you would chime out with. So.
Speaking of mail, we actually got some snail mail the other day. I went to the P.O. box and somebody had sent us a letter. So no return address, of course.
In code, partially in code.
There's a code system on it. So whoever that is, thank you for that.
I got to break that code tonight. So
it's always interesting to get letters and go check the P.O. box and you guys send us letters. So I always appreciate that.
Do you ever take long guns? We will take into one area. We'll take long arms, and other areas we'll take. We have a Mossberg Shockwave, like a 12 gauge too, that I can carry in my pack. Generally, in a lot of areas that we go into in the Southeast, I mean, even if you're going to be in a secluded area, you're going to usually, I wouldn't say run into people, but the chances of running into people, at least in where you park at and everything like that, to kind of hike in, it's high. So we always hear about people walking around with like, oh, I take my 50 caliber in and da 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 da. And I'm just going, if you run into the wrong person here, just getting out of your car, because the area we go into, that it's that network of mountain roads. There's one road that you'll occasionally see off-roaders on. Not a lot. You might just see like one Jeep or something, but you'll see them. And, you just happen to run across the wrong person and you got like ARs on you and everything like that. You might come back to your vehicle and find law enforcement standing there waiting for you, asking you why you're running around the woods with that. So, but we do carry in one area. So
Barton had something up there. I got it on here. Barton says that recent soft disclosures on UAPs, human animal chimeras, and multiple dimensions and portals. The official narrative is crumbling. Woo is true. Who could have guessed? Yeah, we're finding out that the lines are blurred. That there's no separate camps anymore. People will try to be in separate camps between what is the science and what is woo. But you have to follow the data when you do this kind of work. If you are presented with new data, you have to follow it. That's it.
You can't just go.
You can't discount it just because you're like,
that doesn't fit in with my worldview.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to kick it out. And then you hear it again. Still doesn't match up with my worldview. Still getting kicked out.
Yeah.
Third time hearing it, still not believing it. I mean, I have never really been interested in what you would call like the paranormal. That was always like your field. And now I'm having to go. I still don't think they're ghosts. Sorry. I think it's something else. But there's definitely something to that phenomenon that you need to look at, and you need to kind of adapt some of the tools. Like I said, some of the stuff we take out. I mean, you see mostly ghost hunters with this. You don't really see a lot of people that are doing like physical, like quote unquote cryptid type stuff for it. So
yeah, we have a whole box of our like ghost hunting gear. It's all together. It's got the tri-field. We actually carry a ghost box out with us. What is it? Ghost box, SB7. But we take that out with us because I like to do more paranormal ghost type investigations as well. That was more my affinity when I got started. So I always bring that into the mix. But we carry EMF detectors. We carry the tri-field. We carry 2 or 3 EMF detectors, including the trifield. But we carry the Geiger. You know, we are testing for all of this stuff. And that is what presents us new data. And when we get more data, you have to go in that direction. You can't just say that this is a dumb monkey running through the woods when it comes to Sasquatch. If you have all of these accounts that come out about people seeing lights in the woods, experiencing possible mind speak, having these feelings of, you know, what people consider to be infrasound, but we're going to test for, that could actually just be the effects of high levels of electromagnetic radiation fields.
So, and to Barton's last part is the official narrative is crumbling. We touch upon that with the podcast we've got coming out this week, that that to whatever level the government is involved in trying to cover this up, fight it, do whatever. I mean, they're losing the battle. Like, as far as like the cover up goes, more and more people, activity seems like it's increasing. The activity seems like it's definitely ramping up, at least in our region. It seems like more and more people are having like encounters, experiences. They're becoming more and more likely to come out and speak about it. And the other thing too is that I watched a really interesting documentary the other day, and the guy's name escapes me right now. He's the Australian news guy that's been involved with a lot of the UAP stuff. And they had Ben Hansen on, who you guys probably ever seen this guy in like reality TV shows for UFOs and stuff like that. But he took them out off the coast of California, where they've had a lot of these UAP sightings of these naval warships. And this guy's kitted out kind of like we are. And the guys who were doing the documentary was like, one of the things they think that's really playing into this is the level of tech that's available to people now is light years ahead of where it was 10 years ago. So you're getting people out there that are going to be able to actually collect some good data on this. And I think the more and more people you get doing this sort of stuff, the harder it's going to be to keep the lid on it.
Yeah, so, and people like us and people like you are shining a light on this subject every day. And it seems like more and more people are just getting interested in it. And more people are doing investigations. More people are going out and looking for these things. And so there's no way they can keep a lid on it if you have more eyes on it and everybody's turning the light on it.
Piper at the Gates of Dusk, how are you, my friend? Haven't heard from you in a while. The one that was shot in the eye socket, where'd the body go? They believe that the government collected it back up because they later talked to the guy who shot it and said that you killed one of our assets. So that seemed as if it was something that had either escaped or was being let out to kind of test its capabilities, and then was killed and then was collected afterwards at that point. So
that went from Jill Duck.
Okay.
Have you been to Hellier, Kentucky? What do you think about the purported goblins in that area? We have not been to Hellier, Kentucky. We were going to go to Hopkinsville, but we had a tick incident. We were viciously attacked by ticks. So that derailed our trip to Hopkinsville. I don't know. I know that there is multiple cave systems in the area, and there's a lot of weird stuff that comes out of Kentucky in general. I think in the Hellier documentary, they were on the path of something very interesting. And then they went to Somerset, and the locals in Somerset were telling them about these cults and all of these people that were performing all these rituals
and sacrifice.
And like, to me, like, if they said that to me, I would have been like, oh my God, this is where we need to go. This is the direction we need to go, because this is what's going on. You've got cults, you've got human sacrifice, you've got all this stuff. Maybe that's what's kicking up all of these things. The people who did the documentary just went the opposite direction and were like, yeah, we're not going to fool with any of
We're going to go bust out the Ouija board now and see what the spirits think about it. So, but I definitely think that there are things that are underground that come out every once in a while. And I definitely think not just the Hopkinsville goblin, but there's a long tradition of just these little white hairless things, the Dover demon, all sorts of stuff like that I think that people reported seeing. And one of the things that was kind of buried in when that first New York Times article came out about the UAP, like, again, that slow roll disclosure, that the thing that kind of got the ball rolling, right after that came out, people were looking into a lot of these documents that were released. And buried in all of it was the fact that some of the NIDS teams, the Bigelow guys, were getting government money to hunt for werewolves and goblins in Utah, that they were getting some really credible reports of what you would consider like the Hopkinsville goblins and all that up in Utah. And then it was just kind of, it was that one little comment, then nobody ever talked about it again. So, but I'm a firm believer in that a lot of that stuff that is purported to come from underground is actually there. And, um, you know what, I would almost be willing to believe that a lot of the UAP phenomenon is something that comes from underground as opposed to another planet at this point. So let me get this one here real quick.
Sure.
Did you see the new article on the Havana syndrome? Always reminds me of the sound weapon that Dogman and Bigfoot may use. And it's, again, to kind of tie everything together once more. Gary Nolan, the immunologist that is really been involved in testing a lot of these purported UAP fragments. He was originally brought in by the CIA to test for Havana syndrome. And then he ended up testing, what was it, the Ataka skeletons, those little skeletons that were found in Mexico. And once that happened, they brought him in to test UAP experiencers because their symptoms were very similar to the Havana syndrome that he had already looked into. So, and then exactly right. If you look at those symptoms and you look at what people report after Dogman and Bigfoot, it's all the same symptoms. And that's why we're going in with what we've got now. If it's infrasound, if it's ionizing radiation, if it's non-ionizing but very powerful electromagnetic fields, we're going to be able to detect it.
We will have actual readings on that.
Yeah, and and that should be something that should be verifiable and repeatable as long as the activity stays within an area. So if you get these hot spots, we might be able to get in and actually start seeing a pattern now.
Yeah.
Instead of just talking about it and just, hypothesizing about it, let's get some boots on the ground and let's just go into these areas and
we can get real data.
We can get
real data, real numbers, and we can start charting all of this and seeing if there's some sort of pattern or if there's some sort of commonalities between all of this. Alan Lassiter says, "Do y'all use a REM pod?" We do not.
I'm building a REM pod right now.
Joe's building a REM pod because we're going to use a REM pod, but Joe wants to build one. So he's building one, and then we're talking about eventually having like little Hellbent Holler REM pods if he gets it worked out how he wants to build ours.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, it's no secret. I mean, a lot of the REM pods that are commercially made, they work off the same principle that a theremin does. The musical instrument that you move your hands back and forth and it alters the electromagnetic field around it and it causes noises. If you've seen an old 50s UFO movie, you've heard a theremin before. But a lot of the REM pods are based on that same technology. So what we're going to do is we're going to see if we can maybe build a really good one. So I got the stuff. It's just on the back burner for right now because we got so much other stuff going on. But we are going to have a pretty decent one built probably before the end of the year. So. Dead air. Todd Brown goes, not a good idea to go into deep woods looking like prey. One's carriage is different if you feel confident, much less likely to be attacked. You've talked about that before, but they've done those studies.
Yeah, they've done studies before, and I've mentioned this before, but there were studies where they took photos of different individuals and they showed them to career criminals, people who were burglars, people who would mug people, rob people, and they showed these photos to people, and they said, I would mug this person, I wouldn't mug this person, I would mug this person, I wouldn't mug this person. And it's based on how you carry yourself. If you look like you are a target, you don't want to look like a target. And if you are confident in your training, your skills, your ability to defend yourself, you walk with a certain level of confidence. And you go through with life with a certain level of confidence. And I think when you're in the woods and you're prepared, this also connects back to the missing 411 phenomenon, is there's always the rules of it is carry a personal locator beacon, go armed, don't go alone. All of these things up your confidence level of being in the woods, that you're going to make it out safe. And I think putting out that energy, things can feel that. Whatever these entities are, they can sense that. And also, if you're the kind of person who takes that much care, effort, money, time to prepare yourself to go out into these situations, you are situationally aware. That's already in the front of your mind to be situationally aware. So you're going to be out in the woods looking around. You're going to be aware. You're not going to be walking around on your phone, taking pictures of everything. You barely have half a bottle of water. You're by yourself. You're unarmed. Those people are walking targets. Just like if you're in a city and you have a predator in the city who sees somebody who's not paying attention, who's unable to defend themselves, and they're just a walking target. It's the same concept.
I always wonder if the whole thing about the personal locator beacon, because if you get down to it, if something's out there grabbing people, if it's something coming out of a portal, something coming from underground, something UAP involved is responsible for these disappearances, what's a personal locator beacon going to do for you at that point? I mean, you're not going to have time to trigger it or do anything, but yet you never hear of anybody with a firearm and a personal locator beacon going missing. And that's what I always go back to, is I think that it's not necessarily those items.
It's the
It's
mindset.
the person that would normally carry those items is maybe too aware. And I think that when these things hit, regardless of what it is, they're opportunistic predators. They wait for your guard to be down. They wait for just that moment when you're not looking or whatever. And maybe the people that carry all that stuff are not the type to really let their guard down. So
yeah. Stephen Taylor says, do you think there is residual hauntings in the LBL? There's a lot of places we have not explored in the LBL, but when we went there the first time, we spoke to a girl that was working there in one of the gift shops in the nature center. And
real quick, just to pause you, the only person that would talk to us about anything weird there, people won't talk about it in that area, whether they work in the park or in the surrounding areas. Now, how much of that's a cover up? I don't know. I think the people that work in the park, a lot of them are new employees and they don't really know any better. But this girl had actually had personal experiences.
Yeah, she had personal experiences. Her boyfriend and she and her boyfriend camped in like near an abandoned graveyard area, and they couldn't even stay there through the night. It was just, the activity was so insane, and it was a very remote part of the park. And so she volunteered all kinds of information to us, like out of nowhere. She saw Joe's logo on his hat and was like, "Oh, what's that?" And we were like, usually we don't tell people what we do if they ask us if we're in the parks, because we don't want them to really know that we're out there doing any kind of like paranormal research.
Just because they'll come mess with you and just you have to discount anything you catch. So
we don't want anybody to know what we're doing generally. So we'll just say that we have a channel. If anybody asks us, we're like, oh yeah, because we have all this camera equipment and all this. So we'll say, oh no, we have a hiking channel. She goes, oh well, you ought to check out this area, this area. She told us about her experiences near the cemetery where they camped out. And we started talking about how they removed all of these people from the land between the lakes when it was the land between the rivers. When the TVA took it over, they kicked so many hundreds of families off the land. And it was a land grab by the federal government. And it was, a lot of these people did not get compensated. Land that they had lived on for generations was just taken away from them. And that's going to cause some bad blood. She used the phrase that really stuck with me: the bitterness has soaked into the land. And that's absolutely true.
I don't think it's a residual haunting, and that there's human spirits that are, although that might very well, there might be things that are pretending to be human spirits, but that's my own personal belief. But there's definitely a residual energy there that is not good.
In addition to, all the people being kicked off of their land in the 1960s, between like 1960, 1966, all the way up to, I think the last family was off in 69. All of that causes a lot of issues. However, that was an area where they had iron furnaces. They were operating large-scale iron furnaces in the mid to late 1800s. So you had all of these iron furnaces running. You had all these men working there. They operated using slave labor. There was a huge slave revolt there. And so there is all kinds of factors at play when it comes to the land between the lakes. And so there's definitely a lot of crazy stuff going on, but there's definitely a lot of scars on the land that would feed into that.
David Hunt, we've been lied to about everything: UFO, paranormal, Sasquatch, cryptic, even Antarctica, and so much more. Once it opens, the walls will crumble quickly.
It works like a snowball. As soon as it goes slow, and then it's like bankruptcy. It goes slow and then it goes fast, And I think that it's been going kind of slow for a while, but it seems like it's building up
steam. And where we are right now with UAPs, because when you get right down to it, you're exactly right. They've lied to us since at least the 40s. At least the 40s, the government. Now, maybe not every aspect of the government was aware of this, but part of the government's been aware of it and has covered it up. And the people that maybe they didn't lie to you on purpose, but they just didn't have the whole truth. Well, then that goes into why are you speaking so definitively about a topic that you obviously don't have all the information on? But you've been lied to. We've all been lied to about it. And that's one of the things that they're really not addressing with any of these UAP hearings. It's not, okay, yeah, the fact that this phenomenon is real is very important. What's almost equally important is you guys have been lying to us the whole time about this. How can we believe you about anything else that you're telling us it's foolish to believe in, that it's fake? I think where we are with UAPs right now, I think within 5 years, we're going to be in the exact same spot, possibly with some of these physical entities that are around.
But think of the ramifications of that, of the public at large learning that these things are real.
I think that some people will flip out. A lot of us are going to sit there and go, told you so. And then let's just be honest. People aren't rioting in the streets right now, and the government's doing everything but trotting out a dead alien body at this point. You know, they're having hearings. They're saying that there's something to it, and just life goes on, man. So I think that if they would come out about it, at least people would be a bit better prepared for going into these areas where these entities seem to frequent at that point. So
we really appreciate you guys being here with us. Make sure you hit that like button for us. We've got a bunch of people in the chat, a bunch of people watching. We really appreciate you guys taking time out of your Monday evening to watch us with us. We like to start the week off great with a live chat with you guys. We really appreciate you joining us. Make sure you hit that like button. We really appreciate it.
Rick Gibbs says he talks to Ben Hansen once every couple of weeks. He's really gotten deep into UAPs. Yeah, he has.
Yeah, he has.
Watching the Coulthard, Richard Coulthard, I think his name is, but he's the Australian newscaster that has gotten really involved. He's one of the people that's really read into the know, or at least what we think we know about UAPs. He was the guy that said something to the effect of, if what he knew became common knowledge, it would just cause like mass hysteria and panic. And when he went out with Ben Hansen, I was struck by, you kind of think of Ben Hansen just as reality TV guy. He's really into it. I mean, a lot of the personal equipment that he has,
he's great at it.
Yeah, he's really gotten into it. And I think he's kind of gone beyond just some stuffed suit and like a UFO show, and to being like, it's how he comes across, is that he's very obsessed with it right now.
He does a great job. I'm a big Ben Hansen fan.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So. He was going to be the reason I went to CryptidCon. Let's see. Randy Ramaglia says, your LBL episode was great. You actually captured something. Well done. Yeah, we got a thermal image. We got audio. We got audio of disembodied voices that have no explanation.
We got tons of strange lights.
So it's not just a Dogman situation, I think, at the LBL. I think the LBL is so much more than that. I think that there is a possibility of residual hauntings, of active hauntings. We saw what looked to be some sort of shadow figure that was a solid mass, but it was blacker than black. It had long limbs. It didn't look like an upright canid. It looked like something else entirely. I think that what we're dealing with in the LBL is just a slew of paranormal activity.
There's no one explanation that's going to sum everything up. Definitely. I think there's definitely a lot of stuff going on out there. Go to Hellier and set things right. Regulators mount up. Let's go. Yeah, that's the thing, is that, people, I always like describe us as like kinetic kind of researchers, and the fact that we like to go out on the ground and kind of move around and shake stuff up, and we'll set up stationary and nothing happens, and we're just like, all right, let's throw our packs on and see what happens. Let's just go into the woods. The guys doing Hellier are pure ghost hunters. You know what I'm saying? So they're pure ghost hunters, and it's conceptual to them, So I think that after that happened, they went and did like an Estes session or something like that, instead of going to the caves, man. Let's go to the caves and see what happens.
And I love doing Estes sessions when I do that kind of work. But if the evidence is taking me in a direction where I need to go into the woods and do something not that, I like to use all the tools at my disposal. But I think that wasn't the tool necessary for the job. When you've got the evidence leading you in a really exciting direction, and you go the opposite direction because it's safer. So, but that's okay. Not everybody does, intense stuff and crazy stuff. So
Paranormal Trucker podcast was talking about an upright wolf that he had seen, and he said there's a bunch of sightings in Virginia recently. We're getting more reports of stuff just random from southwestern Virginia than anywhere else in this half of the country right now.
Yeah, we're getting emails at least 2 or 3 a week.
More than that at this point
just
now.
Just from that area. So
just
there's
from that
something
area
going on in Southwest Virginia. I don't know if something's kicking up. I don't know if you guys had an earthquake recently. A lot of times when there's an earthquake, there's a bit of geological activity. Then all of a sudden, the high strangeness will kick up and the paranormal activity will kick up. I've seen a bit of a correlation there.
Ever think about wearing earmuffs that amplify sound but block out real loud sound? Yeah, we've actually got a couple pairs of them. We'll use them occasionally. You don't usually see us on camera with them. Anything we hear out of there, you're not gonna be able to hear on camera. But we actually have a couple of them. Howard Leet Impact, like muffs, is what we actually have. We use them when we shoot. We usually take them out with us as well. So. But yeah, but if anybody has anything going on in Southwest Virginia, reach out to us. Definitely. Something is going on up in there. I'm from northern Western Virginia, up near the West Virginia border, right on the border is where I'm from originally. And I just don't remember hearing that much when I was up there about that little corner of Virginia having a lot of activity. So I don't know if that's maybe just started over the last few years or what. So. Have you heard about the breakaway civilization that maybe inhabits the inner earth? Yeah, that's one of the things that people talk about, that there was a breakaway civilization, maybe human, maybe not human, maybe something that precluded the ice age, that went underground, and that those are the craft that we're seeing at this point. Again,
I'm always down for Hollow Earth theory discussions. I'm always down for it. One of my favorite theories is that the Nazis went to Antarctica and then they met up with some reptilians who were living in the Hollow Earth. Then they combined their technology, and that's the UAPs that we're seeing now being disclosed. That's a Nazi reptilian spacecraft. So, yeah.
But I think a lot of that subterranean stuff, I think the Shaver mysteries are not fake like everybody thinks that they are. If you can't tell by now, I try to approach some crazy stuff pretty rationally. But I'm just telling you right now, I think the Shaver mysteries, there's something to it. So there's definitely something. What brand of MREs do we take? We don't take MREs. We'll take like freeze-dried food, Mountain House, and stuff like that. The only MRE stuff is we might take an occasional MRE pound cake.
Yeah, those are delicious. I'm a big fan of the lemon poppy seed MRE pound cakes. I love them. He's more of a carrot cake person. But I do have an MRE I need to eat that my friend got me. It's a 2016 Menu 16, which is a pork rib shaped patty with barbecue sauce. I'm very excited about eating that because I am a McRib person. I'm one of those disturbed individuals who loves a McRib. So I'm going to eat that MRE. I'll probably do a video where I eat that MRE. But we like Mountain House. We take Mountain House out when we go. It's freeze-dried food. It's very, very light. We can take it with us. It's easy to just throw some boiling water in there and get it going. So that's usually what we take.
Keep in mind that hunters are among the missing 411. The hunted is a good example. It is. I mean, these are people that are armed, and that's the thing that makes it so odd. That, I mean, the big thing is that, all right, so fine, let's just say a bear got them or a mountain lion, ate them up, ripped them apart, ripped up the cloth. Where are the boots and the gun at? You know, that boot and that gun's not decomposing. I mean, there should be a rusted gun laying there when they find it. But again, I think those people are being hit when they, you're out hunting all day long, maybe towards a lot of the missing 411 stuff happens in the late afternoon. So maybe these people have been out since before dawn and they're tired, their guard starts to drop. Maybe they stop to get a bite to eat or something like that, and that's when whatever is taking them hits, it strikes at that point. So
Alan Lassiter says, have y'all camped in the campground where the attack happened at the LBL? We have not. It's not really a campground. And we've been out there several times. We've done a lot of research on the area. We don't know if it was ever a campground. So we're still working through that. We've never camped out there in that particular area, but we've camped out in the LBL. But the thing when you camp out in the LBL is you don't sleep at all.
Yeah, we're usually up all night anyway. So then you're trying to sleep in the day. But yeah, that area where the massacre supposedly happened, the story is that it was a RV campground that was then wrecked on purpose after the massacre to kind of keep people from going there. And that's what we thought the first time we went, because some of the stuff you find, you could interpret it that way. But
Yes.
we've been researching a lot deeper into that, going through old maps and all that. And so we've got some questions about what was in that area before now, what the remnants of some of those places are. We're not really ready to talk about all that yet. But,
Yeah, we're not ready to present
but-
that evidence, but yeah, we've done a lot of research into that area, and I think the most important thing is to ask questions. And if you hear a story, look into it. But we think definitely something happened there. We know something happened there, but I just think that there's a little confusion on the details. I think the devil's in the details on all this.
Yeah.
So,
And that's the thing, is that when you start to pick a story like that apart, again, we're not really big on like going out and debunking people, or spending a lot of time debunking. The only reason we're really looking into this is just so we know where to kind of focus our own efforts in the area. But yeah, like I said, it's there's the LBL is like an onion, just there's multiple layers to it. There was the Native Americans that lived there, then the European settlers that came in, and then they were kicked off the land, and the TVA came in, then the Forestry Service took over after the TVA. So there's multiple layers in that area that you have to kind of peel back to kind of try to find out a little bit about the history of the area. So
Dewey Edwards says, with all the relocated graves at LBL, plus the trauma of having your property taken by the government, there has to be hauntings at LBL. I agree, Louie. I agree. Absolutely. It's just when you have so many traumatic events, you have such a history of heightened situations, trauma, sadness, all of these kind of emotions, and it leaves a stain on the land. It goes into the soil, and you can sense it there. The minute you cross over the bridge over the canal in the north end, you have this weird sense of this place something's not right here. Something's very ominous here. Something is definitely off. We always feel like when we're there that something's watching us, that we've got to kind of look over our shoulder the entire time we're there, because just something is just off. It's not right,
So I wonder what was being hid that helped select that area to be flooded. A lot of that was done for hydroelectric power, but I think that there's some questions about how they went about it. Because if you look back at the original thing, the residents of that area were promised that this was going to be great for economic development of that area, that national recreation area was going to be just that. It's going to be a recreation area. There was going to be a ton of stuff there. And there's a lot of tourism that goes on there in particular areas, but the rest of the area is just left to rot at this point. It was never developed like they promised for some reason.
Yeah.
They had the land. They could have done with it what they wanted to, and instead they just kind of decided to let it fall into ruin.
Yes.
And that's where my question comes in. And I've said it before, it seems like they're doing everything short of dynamiting the bridges to make you not want to go there.
Oh, absolutely.
So
absolutely. Got a little, we're trying to keep up with the chat here, guys. Oh, look at this. Thank you, Jill Duck, for that $10
Thank you, Jill Duck.
donation. We thank you for your super chat. It's really awesome. We look forward to hanging out with you guys on Mondays.
Yeah, and all the super chat money we got over the past couple ones, that just all went in to help pay for the infrasound equipment. So we appreciate it.
Yeah, that's how we got our custom infrasound rig put
so
together.
We'll definitely make sure that we're going to share every bit of data that we're able to get from it. Share it as best we can for you guys. So yeah, we're going to see what sort of dividends we pay for that, but you guys can come along on the journey while we kind of get some more data on what's going on with these things. And again, we might get out there and find out it's something that can't be measured with any of the equipment that we have. We've found some readings in the past. I think we're going to be able to find something on it, but you won't know until you look. So
Johnstead Farm says, I was surprised at the sheer amount of cemeteries all up and down the trace. Yeah, there's something like 200 cemeteries. A lot of them are completely lost to time. There's a lot that just nobody knows where they are. And like Dewey said earlier, a lot of people were relocated. They dug people up and they reburied them elsewhere. A lot of times they didn't put them with the right headstone.
Sometimes they didn't dig them up. They just moved the headstones.
Yeah, they left them buried in place and then just moved the headstone. Again, you're dealing with people who are paid by the government to kind of relocate people they don't even know. So there's going to be some corners cut when it comes to that. And that leads to some pretty gnarly upset spirits, I would say.
Jill Doak, do you have a hypothesis as to why there's so much strangeness along the 37th parallel? I do not. I'm familiar with all the stories. I'm familiar with the cases, the theory that it's something about the 37th parallel. I have no earthly idea.
I wonder if it's kind of like a magnetic field situation
that stretches across an entire parallel. that's the thing.
Well, I mean, where it
you
goes
could
across one section of the earth.
You could get into ley lines. You could get into like all sorts of stuff. I don't know. If you've got any ideas, I'd love to hear them, because that's something that it's indisputable. I mean, you can look at it and just go, there's something there. It's a pattern. All of this stuff is about following patterns, whether you expected to find that pattern or not.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the 37th parallel, it's there's a pattern there, and I don't know why. Again, it's ley line. I mean, it's as weird as it sounds, ley lines, maybe. Like maybe she said, maybe there's, the only thing is that they can measure magnetic
energy.
Yeah, magnetic energy and like the magnetic field. And there's a big anomaly in Kentucky itself, but there's no magnetic anomaly that follows that entire parallel. So I think whatever's causing it, it's something that we aren't testing for, or they are testing for, and they're just not sharing what that test is. But I would love to hear anybody's ideas on that, because that's always maybe been a head scratcher.
Bryce Edwards says, is there a merch store for the podcast? We have a Teespring. We've got a bunch of stuff in the Teespring. But I think if you guys have seen those T-shirts that a lot of people have that we kind of only give out, we don't sell them. It has this logo here. We're thinking of doing a pre-order on those, because we get those hand screen printed, and they're on really, really high quality shirts, and they're hand screen printed, and they're like top quality. I know Dewey has one. I know Barton has one. So yeah, we're thinking about doing a pre-order on those. Let us know if you guys would be interested in something like that. That way we can kind of get those out there. But other than that, we do have a Teespring.
Cryptid Response, what's up, buddy? I hope you have a quiet night. My friend at Cryptid Response has had some crazy stuff going on around his property. I don't know how much he once shared on that, but feel free to mention that in the chat if you choose to, or if not. But he says the government doesn't like to admit that there's something out there they can't control. I think that was probably the initial reason why they covered this stuff up, is because they couldn't control it. They didn't want to admit it. And now the cover-up's been going on so long, they're not going to willingly.
You have to double down. And
you've got to keep doubling down.
Commit to the lie.
Or admit that you've been lying for like decades at this point. So
yeah, unfortunately, but that's how it is. Justin Langtine says, where will you two investigate next? Well, now that we are out of summer and the cicadas have died down, because I'm not doing a cicada impression this week, okay? Unless somebody super chats. If somebody super chats, I'll do the cicada impression this week. But because the cicadas have died down, we can actually get audio at night.
Cicada prostitute there, man.
I'm a cicada prostitute
yourself. Anyway.
But no, because everybody gets on to me about my cicada impression.
Yeah.
But we've been unable to get any good quality audio recordings at night.
Yeah, it's difficult. Problem. I mean, there's one old mountain road that we've gone down before, and we've actually got that when we talked about bringing out some of that, the Hellbent Holler from the vault stuff. Yeah. We were going down this old mountain road a couple of winters ago, and that's where we found that print, remember? And we found this print, and it was still filling with water, and it was like a stereotypical Sasquatch print. I look at her and I go, you need to steel yourself, like get ready, because we are probably going to have there's a very good chance we're going to have a very up close encounter tonight, which we never did, but we heard stuff. We saw some weird stuff, but that road is impassable right now. It's so overgrown. I mean, I'm talking foliage above your head. You can't get through it. I mean, the area we operate in, it's semi-tropical. It's a temperate rainforest. And what we usually do as far as like getting off trail and just kind of going and exploring and all that, it's really difficult to do during the hottest parts of the month. We're really limited into where we go to. There's areas, there's old settlements, there's the remnants of old towns, there's old cemeteries that you just can't get to in the hotter months. We've got to wait. So now we're just waiting for that first cold snap to come along, and it's going to open up some stuff for the next half of the year for us.
We are doing a very extended trip to the LBL coming up in the winter. We love going in the winter because our visibility is so much better. We discovered so many things while we were out there in the winter. We found that bus that was overturned. But we love going in the winter. So we're going to do a very, very extended, probably a 2-week LBL investigation. We have a lot of new sites we're going to go to that we've kind of sussed out. So there's going to be a whole new round of LBL videos coming out from that trip. So that's definitely something I'm looking forward to.
Do you think, what's up, Goshawk? Do you think that there could be a base underneath the LBL? There's something underneath the LBL.
We found entrances to tunnels.
Yeah, that they had blocked off. But yeah, I think that there's something under there. Maybe they used a naturally occurring cave that was there. There's something underneath there. So
David Hunt says, what's your opinion on occult rituals being a cause for the bad energy in the world and negative figures and thinning of the veil? I think that when you practice ritual in a negative way, that you can open doorways that are not good, that you can draw in certain energies or certain entities that could do damage, or possibly go into possession, possibly go into some really dark areas. So you have to be very careful with any kind of ritual that you participate in, and make sure that you do it from a place of light, because otherwise you don't know what you're inviting in. You don't know what you're opening the door to. And I think a lot of this really negative things that go on, like we talk about our research area that we go to on a regular basis that's been featured in a lot of our videos. There has been occult activity going up there. There is evidence of occult activity going on up there. And there's something really dark and sinister going on up there. So I think that definitely could open the door. That possibility is certainly there.
1 second. Where is...
You looking up something, Mr. Doyle?
I think the government now has cloaking tech. I don't know what the rest of that was going to be, but yeah, the government does have cloaking tech. I had to look up the guy's name here real quick because I couldn't remember it off the top of my head, but his name was Tom Barle, Baurle. He sued the government. He was a radio host, and he ticked somebody off. And this university that was testing cloaking technology for the military, people started to harass him and stalk him. He got like photo evidence of stuff. And it was like a really big deal if you're not familiar with that, because it kind of hit the internet, and then it just kind of died down, and it was a crazy story. But this guy, basically, he made some comments that somebody took offense to on his radio show. And the next thing you know, he's got people in his backyard that it's like the Predator back there. And he sees a couple of them uncloaked. They're just normal people, sees them get into cars and leaves. He got license plate photos. He hired a private detective who ended up just going gung-ho on his property, and and a lot of that got suppressed in the trial because they said that you can't talk about this technology right now. So absolutely, the government, and that was,
I think this is
20 years ago, I think. So yeah.
Some of these Predator things could be government agents for all we know. Yeah, we don't know if this kind of cloaking ability is something that they've developed through the process of creating bio armor or does that make sense?
Yeah.
That you know how helpful that would be in a ground war. Not that we're going to have many ground wars, but that technology would be very, very handy for the Department of Defense to have.
Alan Lasser wants to know, do y'all go into caves to research? Not really. We've gone in like just very shallow caves at this point. As far as like really in-depth stuff, you're so outside of your element in there, man. I'm not going to crawl on my belly through like really tight like tunnels.
We're not cavers. We're not trained to do that. We don't have the safety equipment to do that. If we find a cave that warrants investigating that we can get into, we'll walk into there. We'll go into there.
Yeah, but as far as the in-depth stuff,
anything we have to belay into or anything like that, we're not doing that because we're not trained for that. And I'm not dying in a cave. I'll be haunting the cave. It's interesting. Let's see.
Justin Langtine, I believe the Shaver mystery is real. The first memory I have in this life is seeing a Darrow. I would love to hear, because again, I think that there's something to that. I think that That was something that they were trying to hide the truth in plain sight on it. And maybe the story didn't line up exactly with what Shaver was saying, but I think he got the gist right on it. There's just something underground, man. I mean, there's something underground. I'm reading a book right now that goes in depth. It's kind of an examination of the book of Enoch, the Watchers, Genesis 6, all that stuff. And one of the things that keeps getting hammered home is just this continual thing, and all of these different mythologies and folklore and religions and everything like that about there's something from somewhere else and somehow it's trapped underground to keep it away from us, but it still comes out every once in a while. That's just such a recurring, the Watchers being trapped and, chained underground and everything like that, kept there for 70 generations, I think it was. But there's just, it's repetitive. There's something that came from somewhere else and now it's underground. And occasionally it comes out and you see it, it interacts with you, beware of it. So yeah, I definitely believe that there's some sort of subterranean element to at least part of the phenomenon. So
Alan Lassiter says, so is winter the best time to do researching? We like to go in the winter, especially in the LBL, because there's so many things hidden out in the woods that you can't see during the summer because it's so lush. The forest is so thick that you can barely see in front of you. And you'll see in the video, I'm going to release it on Friday. We were there, in the middle of summer, and it's just so thick. You can't move around. You can't
something
see.
Can be 10 feet away from you and you'd never know it's there.
Yeah.
The thermal, we go really heavy on thermal images nowadays. And when the background temperature is the same temperature as your body heat, they're just not as effective. And it's like that through here where we're at in the Carolinas. I mean, the mountains through here, I mean, it's impassable in the summertime. I mean, you can go down hiking trails that are well maintained. But again, you can't really trust anything because people use those. We like going where there's nobody else there at that point. So
Carlito's up in the chat. What's up, Carlito?
What's up, Carlito? Carlito almost messaged you the other night. We had just gotten in and I saw that Martin Groves was still recovering and couldn't get on your podcast. And if we had gotten home a little earlier, I was going to message you and see about just hopping on a podcast with you. But Stephanie Light wants to know, no personal locator beacon. No, we carry personal locator beacons. We carry a Garmin InReach Mini. We carry a personal locator beacon with us all the time that's set to track us. So the people that we usually have alerted to where we're going to can kind of get online and track us to see where we're at. So in case they go missing, or in case we go missing, they'll at least know where we were at the last moment.
Oh, yeah. Trying to catch up here.
Brian Wayne, have y'all seen the guy who opens old MREs and eats them?
Yes? That's my favorite YouTube channel. I love him. His name is Steve 1989 MRE, and I love him. He is my favorite. I will just watch hours of his videos. It's so enjoyable for me. That's like my ASMR. So yes, I have seen them.
Yeah, let's get that out on a tray. So
yes, I actually got a metal tray for that that McRib MRE that Lenny got me. I got a metal tray for it so I could do like an ode to Steve 1989 MRE. So I got myself a metal tray for that MRE.
Let me dance. Hey, what's up, Ghetto Yeti? I saw you pop in briefly. Are there county record offices where they might have old maps or plans from the LBL? From what I saw, Kennedy made the LBL during the 60s. What's the deal with the Vampire Hotel? The Vampire Hotel was about the Kentucky Vampire Clan, which we're probably going to do a show about coming up. But there are, if you have to be creative and you have to do some digging, but if you are wanting to find out something about the LBL, there are old maps of the area that you can go back through quite a bit. We're in the process of digging some stuff up right now just to kind of know where to focus our efforts in the LBL. But yeah, the information's out there. We don't have like a secret government plant that's feeding us hidden information. We're just two regular people that know how to dig. And if you want to dig, you can dig yourself and find out the same stuff. So yeah, but once you start looking into there, some of the stories about what you've been told occurred in the LBL, you start to have questions about just because of what you can't verify certain things, but there are certain elements that you can very easily verify. And that just kind of opens up a whole nother I'm being purposely vague right now, but we will. But
just think outside the box on how to do this
so,
research. You know, you're not going to get any new information from a Facebook group or anything like that. You need to think outside the box of where you
start
can
digging. So
where you can dig up research.
I Tales from the Dark Side. There's no sleeping there, especially after hearing Martin Grove's story before heading to camp. When we went in after the Dogman conference, we were much more on edge than we had been there any other time, including when we found the bone trail that night, including when we saw that thing on thermal, just because of...
We sat there and listened to Martin tell his story, Barton tell his stories.
And then we went in, and the last text, I had actually texted Cryptid Response right before we went in, and his last text to me before we got out of cell signal was, if you hear whistling, like Martin Groves reported, get out. And we go in, and we're there 5 minutes. We start hearing like a whistle. But we were extremely on edge, so much so that it was almost difficult to kind of operate. It's like we had psyched ourselves up at that point. So
talking about Steve 1989 MRE. That's him. He's awesome. Love when he lights up and smokes the cigs. He's like, he gets that coffee and he gets that cigarette and just goes, nice. Oh, my favorite.
Cryptid Huntress is in the chat. How are you doing tonight?
Hello, Jessica Jones.
Stingray 1975. The Trace is LBL. The Trace is the main road that runs from the top to the bottom of the LBL.
Yep, it goes right down the center. It goes from Grand Rivers, Kentucky to Dover, Tennessee, and it's about 42 miles. But that's the main road that goes straight down the peninsula, and you're gonna follow that. You know, we've been up and down it countless times at this point.
And people drive through it. I mean, if you're needing to go to somewhere south of the LBL, you can either go around the water in the peninsula or just drive right through it.
It's a lot quicker to go straight through.
So there's cars going down it, up and down it, like all the time, even if there's really nobody out on foot.
And if you're not familiar with how the LBL is laid out, you've got the Trace there, and then you've got all these roads all down the peninsula that just go off from the Trace, and they go miles in every direction, and it's just veins basically of roads, and it's such a there's just so much ground to cover when it comes to the lane between the lakes. Every time we go there, we're there for a week or two at a time, and we're just driving and then going to these areas and just constantly going, and I feel like it doesn't matter how many times we go, we're never going to find everything or scratch the surface on everything. It's just such a vast area to investigate.
Cryptid Responses, he has a question from Martin. Martin popped in last week. I didn't talk to him today. I don't know if he'll pop in tonight or not, but reach out to me offline and I'll pass your question along to him. I talk to him usually a couple times a week. I've been kind of staying out of his hair while he's resting up, trying to recover, but from his little accident that he was in. But
AJ Bates says that concrete bunker jail you guys found with a giant metal door dismantled, why would it be there? And you deaf ground hole in the building remains as strange. All right, we're going to interpret that. So yes, we found something that looks like a legitimate protective bunker.
Not like the rainwater cisterns and the other, although two of the bunkers at the massacre site, they're weird. You know what I'm saying?
They're weird.
Not sure what they are, but this looks like a bunker.
This is a protective shelter of some kind.
Reinforced concrete with
the walls are feet thick. It's got a reinforced steel door. It looks like bulletproof glass with steel grates.
Yeah, it was two panes of glass. One's wire reinforced, and the other looks like bank glass. So yeah,
the door locks from the inside, so you can go inside. Of course, the door was not attached to the structure. I found the door in an old defunct maintenance shed nearby, but it's the door that goes on that bunker structure. So, but we were looking at it, it locks on the inside and it has 4 locks on it. So, I think when we found that, we were both like, what? No way, no way, no way. It was like, so this is like an actual protective structure that you can, I guess, run into, lock the door, and then hide out until you get help. I don't know. But this rings truer to being some sort of place that is like a panic room of sorts. But it's sort of like a panic room in the middle of the woods, which is really weird, right? So it had shelving in there, so you could possibly store food or supplies in there. We're not sure, but it's an above ground, it looks like an above ground panic room in the middle of the woods. So
Jessica Jones, most roads lead back to ET in my research. I am pretty firmly in the interdimensional hypothesis now, as opposed to the extraterrestrial. I don't think these things are getting in craft from a planet and then traveling either, from a different star system, whatever, and then coming through our atmosphere and landing and then going back. I think that there's some sort of, and I think if you look at the people, you probably agree with this too. If you look at the people that have kind of come to the forefront with the government right now, there's a reason why Jacques Vallée is the flavor of the month right now. And he has been the biggest proponent for the interdimensional. So yeah, I would agree with you on that it goes back to ET, but what is ET at this point? I mean, I don't think it's a little green man. I don't think they're coming from another planet on rockets. I think that they're coming from somewhere else, whether it's interdimensional, whether they're ultra terrestrial, where they have been here the entire time. I don't know. But yeah, all roads are leading back to one unifying cause, one unifying phenomenon. And maybe all of these different things are just different aspects of the same phenomenon. So
Tales from the Narc Side is talking about Hotel California. You need to find that Hotel California. We went out there a couple of times when we go out there every time we go to LBL, but it used to be a private residence. It's a concrete structure. It used to be a private residence. It's like two rectangles on top of each other. And it's weird. It's a creepy spot. It's covered in graffiti because you can tell just like the local teens go out there and drink and spray paint stuff.
Yeah, but there's definitely some sinister stuff going on out through there. I mean, there's reports of people having sightings out there. It's just, you can tell that there's a weird vibe.
There's definitely a weird vibe. There's just, it's just like a land apart.
Stingray, I think you guys should add at least 2 more people to your team before you go out there again. We go back and forth. We're going to go as part of a larger group to check one area out. But for the most, and trust me, a lot of times we're out there just moaning that we don't have an extra set of hands. Again, we're limited to what just the 2 of us can carry and deploy. So if we have our thermal in our hand and we want to use a Geiger counter, I've got to stop and unpack the pack and dig it out. And it would be so much easier if we had somebody else there with us. But the more people we take with us, the less activity we seem to experience.
Yeah, it seems like when we're going bare bones, just you and I.
And it's difficult too, because everybody's so firmly entrenched in a particular camp. I mean, there's Bigfoot researchers in our general area, but I mean, what are we going to do? We're going to go out with, like, again, Geiger counters and all that. A lot of these people want to go like bang on trees and try to cast footprints, and that's just not what we do.
No.
So it's difficult to kind of match up with somebody who's just like so cross spectrum like we are at this point. I think there's more and more people kind of coming around to that, but there's just not that many people right now in our area that we know of that do that. So
I mean, we can barely stand us.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah.
War Criminal 7 says, I'm going camping hunting Thursday to Tuesday. If I hear anything, I'll try to record it. I can't wait. I really love it there. Yeah, if you have anything happen, just send it our way. We always appreciate your input and your information, War Criminal 7. Because you are out there. You go out there and you do it. So that's what we appreciate. I'm ready to go back myself. I am so ready to go back. Matt Keene says, what could it be if something is pretending to be an owl? We had something do that to us one time. It's in one of our videos.
That's tied into like everything from UFO abduction, like planted memories or false memory that has been like overlaid over top of the actual memory of your abduction. Owls are just tied into the paranormal and pretty much every aspect of this point. I mean, you hear about that with Sasquatch all the time too. We've heard what sounded like a really large person with a speech impediment trying to imitate an owl that time. Remember?
Yeah.
And in North Georgia, and it's strange. There's something about owls that are just so tied into the phenomenon, but like on all just aspects of it. So
Stephanie Light says, what got you into these investigations? I've done paranormal stuff for a long time, more ghost centric type things. Joe was more interested in the cryptid side of things, and we kind of combined our interests and we started hiking a lot. And then we went to Panthertown Valley and had our incident there. And that's what led to us starting to film our adventures. And it's all kind of just built one little piece at a time. But we enjoy doing it. It combines all of our interests. We love to be in nature, love to be outdoors. We love the paranormal. We love doing research, reading. investigating all this stuff. So it's just been great to kind of combine everything we've been into and to share it with other people, because a lot of people aren't able to go out into the woods and do this kind of work. So we like to share what we do with you guys, and you guys can kind of be along for the ride with us. That's why I film it the way I do, is that you feel like you're there and it's very intimate and you're right there with us on our investigations. Let's see here. Let's see. Cryptid Response says, I make a great pack mule.
Probably going to put you to work there, man.
Yeah. So. Yep. It gets heavy. All of our gear does.
Shelley Vidal, I've heard lots of people think the cryptids and extraterrestrial are somehow working together. I don't know. I think those lines are a lot blurrier than maybe what we think. If I don't know if Barton's still on or not, but I'm going to start recording the like 2-hour-long conversations that Barton and I have on the phone and just put them up, because we talk about that all the time. That when you get down to it, if you take the fact that somebody is seeing a strange light and the other person is seeing a tall, hairy figure, take those, just the object itself out of it. A lot of the other associated effects, phenomena, everything like that, they're very similar. There's not a lot of difference between a lot of these UFO sightings and a lot of these Bigfoot sightings. So, yeah. And then again, everybody, there's that old trope that Bigfoot and Dogman, they're rivals, they fight and everything like that. And it seems that a lot of the more believable cases, seems like there's maybe some cooperation on that. I don't think that there's a lot of conflict going on,
which
with
is
all
disturbing
these
to think about.
Things. Yeah, I think there's some sort of
like hellish team up.
Yeah, exactly. So
Shape Viking says, Hellbent Holler, you guys go in like you're on a serious mission. We are. What we do is dangerous. You need to be prepared for what can happen while you're out there, not only in the work that we do looking for cryptids or entities or whatever the other is, whatever we're going out there looking for. But when we go out into the woods, there's the natural danger of going into the woods and doing this kind of work. We walk around off trail all the time. We are rarely on a trail. So especially around the LBL, there's like old wells, there's weird people.
Mhm.
There's there's hogs, there's all kinds of wildlife out there. And so you just have to be prepared for all of that. That's why I got wilderness first aid certified. That's why we go out there armed. We're just trying to be as prepared as possible. And we do take this very seriously.
Grunt Life Trucking, I wonder if the Hadron Collider has anything to do with why things are ramping up. We go back to that all the time.
Yep.
There's something with the Hadron Collider that goes beyond just the cover story of what they're all doing. It goes back to that ritual that they did, and all that's just a prank. And we've said that before. Yeah, I do very elaborate pranks involving a dozen people in deserted areas where nobody's ever going to see that prank. I do that all the time. That made no sense.
Satanic rituals.
Yes, they got busted at doing something, and that was just the cover story they came up with. And just like everything else, it was news for a day, and then it just moved on. People moved on to the next thing. But it would not surprise me if the Hadron Collider and some of the very novel experiments that are being done there are stirring something up. I mean, you always hear about that there's UFO activity and even like Bigfoot and Dogman activity around nuclear power plants, nuclear research facilities. If that's the case, then it seems like it would make sense that it was also around the Hadron Collider at that point. So
yeah, I just had that Chick-fil-A realization everybody had too. I was looking at my bag because I got him lunch the other day, and I was like, wait, why is there a K in Chick-fil-A? I talked to Joe Purdue about that the other day. He goes, no, there's not. No, there's not. I was like, I guess there is. We've been Mandela'd. We've all been Mandela'd via the Chick-fil-A. All right.
Alex, let us know if you have reports from Romania. That's one place we've never gotten reports from. We get a ton of stuff from Britain nowadays, from Great Britain. We have some people from France who get in contact with us regularly. We've got some friends in South America that we've made that we hear a lot of. South America is crazy active in certain areas, and it seems like a lot of the population down there is just so much more accepting of it for whatever reason, but nothing really from Eastern Europe, at least. I mean, I know stuff goes on, but we just haven't made those connections with people yet. So if you hear anything, pass it along to us, definitely.
Yeah. So I always say like Romania is one of the places I've always wanted to go.
Got one. Camo Man thinks that cryptid and supernatural activities seem to go back to one phenomenon and branches off in many different ways. That's a theory that I go back to as well, that maybe we're seeing that it all has the same root cause, or if you scratch the surface, you'd realize that a lot of this stuff, despite its physical appearance, is a lot more similar to each other than what you would maybe expect. So.
Yeah. Following that up with our friend Barton, what if humanoids and extraterrestrials are the same thing? Hey, man, that is absolutely plausible. I mean, you know, just looking at your illustrations of these inhumanoids, of these reports, they look extraterrestrial, don't they?
Mhm.
They don't look like they don't share a likeness with anything we're familiar with here. They have an otherness to them. So I don't know. It could very well be extra dimensional, extraterrestrial. We don't know.
Yeah.
But there's certainly a plausibility there. Pink Dahlia and Tales from the Narc side are talking about the ticks and the chiggers of LBL. Yeah, we got attacked bad by the ticks last time we were up there. We had a tick crisis that occurred while we were hiking through. That's why we hate going in the summer, because it is nightmarish.
Mike Barabell, have you guys ever opened is it a Dybbuk box? Dybbuk box. Have you ever opened it? No, never. So
nope.
Never thought of it. I'll be honest with you. I don't come from a real paranormal background. I don't come from like a UFO background. I've had to really cram a lot of that information as we began to see the parallels that I didn't see before. But I'm more focused on the UFO and the UAP aspect of it right now. So what is a Dybbuk box? A Dybbuk box. I kind of know what that is, but I don't really know.
Yeah, it's I think it's from
Is it a cursed box,
it's
basically?
Cursed box,
So
basically.
okay, so
it's Jewish lore. But it's it's a cursed box. There's not like one Dybbuk box. There's lots of Dybbuk boxes. Okay. But yeah, it depends. I don't think I would be interested in opening one of those. I'm very brave about these things. I do rituals to protect myself, but I'm not very interested in just poking the bear, as it were. I'm not interested in doing that. When we went to the Bell Witch Cave, there was a beautiful hagstone. And you know what the legend with the Bell Witch Cave is, that if you take something natural from the cave with you, you're cursed. And all these people have all these incidents where they have car accidents, or people die, or people get very sick.
And the people there are very willing to let you take whatever you want to from the cave. They're just like,
oh, go take it,
knock yourself out. And
and normally I am a magpie, like, and especially with rocks, anywhere I'm at and I see a beautiful rock on the ground, I have to take it. And I bring it home. So I have a huge rock collection. But we found some beautiful hagstones in the Bell Witch Cave. I mean, beautiful, gorgeous hagstones. And I wanted one so bad, but I trusted my gut on this. And Joe was actually very surprised that I didn't take anything, because normally I'm very much a magpie. But you know, just trust your gut on it. If it seems wrong and evil, just go with that. Your innermost voice can be your guide when it comes to doing this kind of stuff.
Hey, Pink Talia, did you hear about she wants to know if we heard about the ex-military video the other day on what lurks beneath? I have not actually. Nope. I'll have to check it out. I have not. I'm not familiar with that. So yeah, well, I'll go look at it, and if I can't find it, we'll drop you a line to get some direction as to where to find that at. So the Dooster has a weird thought. What if the bison at LBL are actually shapeshifters that transform into dogmen at night? Way to think outside the box.
Good job, Dewey. You solved the mystery. That's why.
You know what? But here's the deal: is that as crazy as the whole shapeshifter thing, I sound like a broken record a lot of times, even to myself, because a lot of this, so much of this goes back to.
Think about what it's like living with you.
I know the UAP disclosure right now. You can't overstate the fact that all of us, everybody that's been involved in this stuff, and you're interested in this stuff, and you know it's true, you've been called crazy your entire adult life by people that don't, and the government has just basically just naysayed it, and now it's coming out they lied about it, and they're slowly admitting it. And then the stuff that they were willing to fund, and we all know the government funds some pretty ridiculous stuff, but the fact that they put some decent money into this, and they put some really smart people into looking into this, and a lot of this stuff in and around that section of Utah around the Skinwalker Ranch, there's pretty credible reports of shape changers out there. They've followed like wolf prints that have turned into human or vice versa. I can't remember which it is, but basically they followed a set of prints that then just morphed into another species all the way entirely. I mean, what was that? Like a guy walking carrying a wolf on his back, and then they switch places and he rides the wolf out. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. At some point, Occam's razor, you just hack wildly with it. And, you've got to look at it and just go, hey, if you're going to be logical about this, it looks like something, even though it's supposedly impossible, something changed form at this point. So I don't naysay the shape shifting aspect of this like I used to. I think that those cards are on the table, definitely. So
Stingray 1975 says, I think the UAPs come from here, inside the earth, under the ocean. In a lot of those more recent videos that have been leaked, they're coming out of the ocean
or going
into the ocean.
I don't know if they come from there, but I think they're there now. I think that if you wanted to have a spot to
conceal something like that.
And there's some really strange, we talked about the Kentucky magnetic anomaly. There's some strange magnetic anomalies off the coast of California where a lot of these naval warships are experiencing these things. And I think that if you were wanting to maybe hide some of the signature from your craft or your base or whatever like that, you would pick a spot underwater that maybe, it would hide some of your residual, signature, like radiation or anything like that at this point. So, but I think that definitely those transmedium craft, there's something going on. There's something going on underground. There's something going on underwater, man. So.
Shelly Vidal says, take one of those sticky tape rollers. Works great on getting those pesky things. Talking about ticks. Those little tiny little nymph ticks, or what do you call them? Seed ticks. Yeah, that's what we had to use. We grabbed a sticky roller and got them, but they're insane. There's like hundreds of them. So if you go into the LBL or areas like that, make sure you put your spray on. But we put spray on. It didn't make a dang difference at all. It was awful.
Do you think black holes or portals? Maybe. I think that like our science is just now starting to kind of scratch the surface of what a lot of this stuff is, and maybe not what we think of when we think of black hole, but something extremely similar. And if there are portals with this, again, they've got to be intelligently controlled. You're not seeing these things open on Times Square on a Tuesday afternoon at like 4 p.m. It seems like that they're opening up and in areas and at times when a couple people might see them, or at least we know. I mean, there might be times that open up and things come out or things go in and there's nobody around to see it. We just don't know. But it seems like there's definitely some sort of intelligent control to keep those from being seen by the masses, basically. So there's definitely some sort of intelligent control for it. So.
Mothman 46 says we need to get a pet possum to handle the ticks, and then we'll have to get something to handle the pet possum.
Yep, so.
Oh, good night, Jill Duck. Jill Duck is going.
Jill Duck, thank you again. So
there is a small creature flying.
There's a small little moth or something in here. So
there's a moth in here. We have a bunch of moths out on the porch. All right.
Jones said, Farmer, if you looked into the RH positive and RH negative blood types, I'm familiar with that, but not overtly so. I don't know a lot about it. I'm familiar that they talk about how certain, like, that RH negative is tied into some stuff, but I couldn't honestly speak about it with any level of knowledge. So I just don't know enough about it. That's something we definitely, if you said it's taking you down the rabbit hole, if you got any weird information to share, drop us a line.
Do you know your blood type?
AB negative. So yeah.
I do not know my blood type. I don't go to the doctor. I just wrap things in sticks and mud. So.
Hey, David. How are you doing tonight? Do you believe more and more researchers believe in portals? I think that more people right now, I think that we're starting to build some momentum. And I think that you're going to have people that are too personally invested in what they've said and done in the past to really admit that maybe there's more out. Again, 10, 15 years ago, if you'd asked me about Bigfoot, I would have gone into, there was a land bridge and, it's an ape, or at most it's a relic, it's a caveman running around out there. It's a relic hominid. And then I've had to evolve with my own personal experiences and just the data we've collected and the people we've spoken to. If you're going to be intellectually honest about it, you've got to adapt and evolve. I'm hoping more people are willing to say, I mean, I was wrong for years about it. You know, I was speaking very authoritatively about something that I guess I just didn't have all the data on. We still don't have the data. Now, I think now we're starting to figure out how much we don't know. So I do think that there's more and more people that are starting to come around to that way of thinking or admit that these things go on. Maybe they know deep down inside, they just don't want to admit it because of the stigma that's attached to it. But
and that goes back to, following the data. You have to follow the data where it leads you, and don't be so married to what you think is going on. And what is that Max Planck quote that science advances one funeral at a time? Is you just have so many people who have so much ego involved in this work and any kind of work. But if you dedicate your life to a theory or a direction or a narrative, it is kind of hard to change directions depending on the data you get. If you get data, you need to learn how to be flexible. You need to learn how to roll with that.
Yeah.
And otherwise, you're never going to advance the field. You
get conditioned. I mean, for years, like I said, I'm having to do a crash course in ufology at this point because I dismissed a lot of it because I was conditioned to think that it was kind of crazy. I mean, they tell you that about Bigfoot, but I'd had a sighting of something when I was a kid, so I guess I was open to that. But you've just gotta you have to kind of go, hey, I just I didn't know as much as I thought I did. There's a lot of stuff out there that's possible that I previously thought was impossible, and just because I can't explain it right now doesn't mean it's not happening.
Yeah.
You know, they always say don't explain one unknown with another unknown. Why not? I mean, why not? I mean, it's an unknown. You don't know what it is, so now you're going to try to put limits upon what the answer might be for it. That's just bad logic. That just doesn't make any sense. So,
well, and maybe connecting those dots will eventually lead you to some sort of answer. Maybe just the bridge to the answer is an unknown as well.
Yep.
Make sure you guys hit that like button. We really appreciate you guys joining us as usual.
Hey, Cryptidville, how are you, sir? So, and there's Grace W.
Hi, Grace.
What Grace has going on. Does anybody remember a story about a guy finding a portal and decided to try a string to a chicken's leg and throw him through the portal, and then he was going to pull him back out, but the portal closed too soon? No, I do not. And if you have that story, please send it to us because that's wild.
Or there's a link to it.
Yeah, I thought you were. Yeah, no, I have no clue. I have no clue on that. So
man.
send me information on that if you've got it. So
I hope that chicken went to like a chicken beach vacation or something.
And then Glenn Snyder, a few weeks ago, seen a photo of a blue ring, electric energy. Guy claims he threw a water ball in and vanished. I did not see that either.
I didn't.
That's the thing, is that it's hard to keep track of all this stuff nowadays. I mean, I spend pretty much most of my waking time looking into this stuff. She spends most of her waking time looking into this stuff. And then people are constantly going, hey, did you see this? And I'm going, no, how did I miss that? It's because the sheer volume of this stuff, it's increasing, and people are getting more open to speaking about it, which is a good thing. It's a good thing to go, there's so much happening. I have not heard about that. Please share me about it.
Well, they told us that, the Mothman Festival was the biggest it's ever been. It was like tens of thousands of people. So that just shows you that more people are interested in these topics and they're willing to be a part of it. They're willing to talk about it. I think it's really good. I think it's really good. I think it's really good for the field. I think it's good for everybody involved in the field.
Ghetto Yeti, have you seen the supposed entrance to Inner Earth off the coast of California near Malibu? No. Supposedly 2 subs were lost exploring it. Could definitely be a USO entrance. It's unidentified submersible object. So, no, I am not familiar with that in the slightest. I know there's a lot of weird stuff going on off the coast of California right now, but I did not know that we had lost 2 subs exploring it. That's interesting. If you can send me any information on that, I'd like to hear about it.
Wait, Kumbo was the person that put the chicken through?
Kumbo, or he was telling the story about it. Okay. So, our good friend Tracker says RH negative have more abductions. I've heard that. And more connections to cryptids. I didn't know that. So already been that rabbit hole specific. Yeah, I've heard about the alien abduction tie into it, but I've not heard anything about that with like physical, like cryptid and humanoid entity type things. So, Shade Viking's got a good one. It's like these things have to follow rules because it's like something is stopping them from just all out attacking lots of people everywhere. I think about that all the time. I think that with certain aspects of it, like we've talked about that with our one podcast, The Bane of the Race of Men, that is there a possibility that our weaponry has increased to the level that we could hurt these things where maybe we couldn't when we were at a stone or even an Iron Age level of weaponry for it. And now we're punching at a heavier class, so they stay a little bit more hidden.
Maybe it makes them think twice.
Yeah, it might be that they don't fear us individually, but they fear what would happen if like the full weight
of the collective of people.
Yeah, came upon them. Or it might be that they don't want to tip their, it seems like it's building. It seems like there's so much stuff going on. Maybe they don't want to tip their hand too early. Or maybe, like you said, there's a set of rules that we just don't know about yet. Or maybe we do know about them. Maybe the folklore that our ancestors passed down was a roadmap the whole time on how to deal with these things.
I think Tim Renner talks about that. There seems to be kind of like a rule set for some of it, that you're allowed to hear them, but you're not allowed to see them or photograph them. You could see them, but you can't photograph them. You can record the sounds, especially with something like Sasquatch, that you can record the sounds, but you're not allowed to record them on video.
Dumpster Diving Dogman says HARP can detect deep sea submarines, maybe UAPs too. That's one of the things that's come out on why they don't want to, supposedly why they don't want to release some of the UAP footage that they have, is that they don't believe that the UAPs themselves are a foreign adversary, but they don't want to release the information, the video, the sensor data that they have, because it'll reveal what we're capable of detecting to some of our foreign adversaries. We don't want China or Russia to sit there and go, well, look, they got this. Obviously, they have the ability to detect X. And it might very well be that. It might be very well that they have HARP and other technologies that they don't want to come out and publicly admit can detect these things, and therefore they can't release that evidence at this point. The Navy just came out not too long ago and just said that basically any government or military video or sensor information of UAPs is considered classified.
Yeah.
And people are saying, well, what part of that is because they've still got that culture of secrecy and silence, but part of that is because they don't want to come out and tip their hand on what they're capable of detecting. So
Cryptophile says, the more we give into the dark side, the easier it is for them to do what they do, in my opinion. Yeah. Like attracts like. And a lot of times when you are opening yourself to some form of darkness, we talked about this earlier with the occult rituals, that you are opening that door, you're thinning that veil. And the more you give into it, and then the weaker you become spiritually, then you are opening that door to something maybe darker or more evil coming through.
And it's an undeniable fact. And facts are kind of hard to come by in this sort of stuff sometimes. But the wildest areas we've been into have all had evidence of human occult activity going on, in addition to all the other stuff that's going on.
Yeah.
And whether that stuff was going on and those people that were involved in that were drawn there without even knowing why. Maybe they were, the activity and the people involved in the occult were drawn there separately for the same reason, or maybe one is feeding off the other at that point. I don't know, but it goes hand in hand, and you can sit there and you can say that, all that stuff doesn't happen in 21st century America, but it does. It happens. There's still there are people out there right now that you would never guess it, that their families have been involved in intergenerational worship or practice that you would just be shocked by. And that's all there is to it. The satanic panic wasn't that much of a panic. I think that a lot of that got covered up because they were getting too close to some people in power. And now we're really going down a rabbit hole. But I think that a lot of that stuff goes on. I think there's people out there that are involved in practices that amplify and attract these things, whatever they are. So
I mean, in places like near Corpsewood Manor where we went, or the area we go to in North Georgia, you can just feel some evil in the air, and that's exactly where occult rituals have taken place.
Yeah. So leave it all. Why do you think things are increasing? I don't know. It's odd because it seems like it's a chicken or the egg type thing. What seems to be the growing public awareness, is that because the activity is increasing so much, Is the activity increasing because more people are becoming aware of it? I don't know. Could it just be that that it was just bound and determined to snowball over time? And I mean, every major religion or mythology or folklore has tales about the end times, and all of them talk about these strange creatures that are going to appear on the earth, the beasts of the earth that are going to come through, the locusts, everything like that. They're going to come through and torment man. Maybe we're seeing the build up to that. I mean, maybe there's a lot more going on behind the scenes with government chimeras than what we've really been led to believe. And maybe they're getting bolder with that stuff. I don't know. Maybe it's all of that. Maybe there's no one single explanation for it. I don't know. I just don't think anybody's got the answers to that yet, but we're gonna keep digging.
This is a good segue with that, or a follow-up to that. I think these Bigfoots and Dogmen are super soldiers. They're hiding until one day they will be activated. With their abilities and powers, they are unstoppable unless you use the name of Jesus. Yeah, so if there was a program that was ran by the US government called Project Stargate, and it was a remote viewing program, and it was a very, very long running, in-depth remote viewing program, and they had a lot of success with that. Allegedly, somebody from that program contacted Linda Godfrey and spoke to her about remote viewing Dogman and getting information about Dogman, that they live in caves and they live, and I quote, in the cracks of the earth, and that their fur is like a biological piece of armor, and that they are waiting, that they're lying in wait for some other race or some other group or extraterrestrial, interdimensional beings. They weren't quite clear on that, but that they're waiting for something to return, and they are functioning as a super soldier. So your theory has something to kind of back it up from somebody that was allegedly from Project Stargate that got in touch with Linda Godfrey.
A lot of people talking about the RH negative stuff. We might actually have to, I don't know enough about it to speak about it. I'd have to do some research on it. So if anybody's got any good information on that, feel free to send it. But if there's enough interest on that, we might do a show, or maybe, hey, you know what? We've been thinking about doing live streams instead of being so free flowing like we are right now.
Have a topic.
We might have a topical live stream. Because we're like shocked at, I mean, it's funny because you're going to hear this exact same line on our podcast. I'm like shocked at the level of insight and intelligence that we get from people who are watching our videos and the comments and messages they send.
Yeah.
Because let's just be all honest. I mean, you see how a lot of social media is with cryptozoology or ufology and all that. And a lot of times it's the lowest common denominator. For some reason, we've been real lucky to avoid all of that. We've got some really insightful stuff. So that might be something we're interested in doing, is maybe doing a show topic for something like that a lot of you guys are interested in, and just doing it on a live stream, having a discussion about it. Because I'll just be honest with you, I'll sit here and talk all day long about the stuff that I know. But the stuff that I don't know, I'm going to be honest with you about. And I don't know a lot about the RH stuff other than just like a few maybe things that I've read about online.
Pink Dahlia says that story I mentioned on What Lurks Beneath talked about occult practices within the Black projects. When you say Black projects, are you referring to like Black sites and government projects? Is that what it's talking
probably
about?
So
well, there's countless tales of government links to the satanic cabal. So that is not surprising at all, because if you look at the layout of Washington, D.C., it's a pentagram. But there was a lot of rumor going around about our government was founded in some sort of ritualistic satanic manner. But there's a huge conspiracy about the satanic government.
Not even that. You don't even have to go back that far. A lot of what became our core, especially with the defense industry, let's just be honest, man, those are all Nazi scientists.
That's
Operation
true.
Paperclip. Look at what Hitler wasn't the only one who thought enough to send these teams into Tibet and Antarctica and South America and everything like that, looking, the Brill Society, all of the,
Thule Society.
Yeah, the Thule, and just it's all those people came over here and then got involved with NASA, the rocket program, the Department of Defense, national security. Those people had some pretty esoteric ideas and practices over there. And I would be very surprised if that did not translate into
projects that they worked on
here. I mean, absolutely.
Well, there's like satanic ties to things like MK Ultra and Project Monarch too. There's like it's almost like it's ritualistic satanic abuse that went on with a lot of those people too. Then you've got the connections to General Aquino. I mean, this is a dark and dirty rabbit hole to go down, but yeah, I mean the connections are there.
People with hazel eyes will experience more things. It's those with recessive genes that are more likely to have encounters. That's weird. There's a whole thing on that I'm not very well versed in, and that might be a new rabbit hole to go down into, and
maybe commonalities between witnesses and stuff like that, physical traits. How do the people doing occult worship know where to go? I think there's like a satanic newsletter.
Well, it's weird because when we went to Corpsewood Manor, we didn't know it was like a satanic mecca.
Yeah.
But and these aren't like just kids like listening to like heavy metal albums and playing too much D&D. These are people that are very deeply, and when we say satanic stuff, we're not even talking like LaVey Church of Satan type stuff. We're talking about people, whether you agree with it or not, they call themselves satanists and they worship a dark force. And it's I don't know. Again, you're in the internet age. I guarantee you there's some level of communication that's there between a lot of these like groups where they trade information and all that. Or maybe, you know what, maybe by virtue of the stuff they dabble with, maybe they can sense it. Maybe they can sense these areas to go to. So
yeah, it's there's just so many factors when it comes to this. You guys talking about the blood and everything, that's really bringing up a whole other layer to this.
I think Bigfoot has telepathic abilities from the stories I heard. That was something that I used to just scoff at. I used to just, and then losing my microphone. I lost
mine earlier.
Used to just scoff at, and I don't know. I mean, it's never happened to me. She's gotten affected by something twice, once worse than the other. But I've had a lot of people whose word I trust talk about how they've had thoughts or voices appear in their heads that weren't their own. It wasn't their own internal dialogue. And guess what, though? That doesn't just happen just with Sasquatch. You hear that constantly with some Dogman and things where it seems like it beams a message to them that's usually not good. It's usually like, hey, I could take you if I want to, or I'll be back to get you later, or something threatening. And then you have that with like UFOs as well. There's so many commonalities with all of these things. So yeah, I don't scoff at it anymore. I think absolutely that there's something going on, telepathy or something so close to it that it might as well be telepathy. So
this is funny. MK Ultra says, was I summoned? It's like MK Ultra has entered the chat. Would you like some acid? Oh God. Yeah. I'm waiting to see if we get throttled for our satanic government conspiracy talk.
David says there are some who do not take this research of cryptids seriously. A lot of so-called researchers seem to want to party, make serious researchers look like kooks. Yeah, I try not to spend a lot of time worried about what other people do, but you're very right. And that with a lot of people, it's a social club more than anything else. And you know what? That's right. I mean, whatever they want to do, it does. I guess where I got to is that you're never going to be able to control that narrative, and you're never going to be able to do anything. And so we don't even, and it's a cross to bear sometimes, man. I mean, some of the stuff that people do, you're judged by as soon as you mention that you're into this sort of thing. So, but like I said, you can't affect it, David. I mean, there's no way to control it. There are things that I look at all the time and I just go, but I would try to worry about, I mean, you're doing some great research out there with your group, so like I said, that's just, that's what we focus on. We just focus on what we can do. And then, encourage other groups like like your group and everything like that, to focus on what they do and let the people that want to go hang out at a KOA and bang on sticks with T-ball bats, and won't it be crazy if that's one of the people that end up like solving the whole damn thing? You know what I'm saying? So that's just how it'll be one night, that'll be the person that gets that smoking gun piece of evidence that just blows the lid off of it. So
I'm going to be like missing an eye.
Yeah.
We're going to be just decimated. And then that's going to be some guy with a Coors Light in a KOA that finally cracks the case. Martin Grove's in the house. Here we go.
Martin Groves is in the house.
I missed I got rid of yours. I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead. So,
I truly believe that they are telepathic. The
Yeah.
message given to me in LBL was clear. Mind speak or telepathic. Oh yes, I concur.
and Martin, you're one of the people that I was referring to when I've heard too many people who I just trust. And again, I go back to this on Martin. Martin is somebody who is, by virtue of his law enforcement background, Martin's word could have put you in jail if he was on the stand and he said, I saw Jesse doing this at this place at this time, the jury would convict you. So somebody,
Although you're
probably right, Martin. But
probably did do it.
yeah, it's that Les Stroud, his Bigfoot stuff is great. You've got to admit his Bigfoot stuff is great. And he openly just says he doesn't care what anybody thinks about it, man. He just like, I don't care whether you think I'm crazy or not. He's had mind speak a couple of times at this point. So there is definitely some sort of telepathic mind speak, whatever label you want to put on it, that happens with all of this phenomenon. You have it everywhere. You have it in the Bible when the angels would appear towards people and people would just hear, be not afraid, in their heads, basically.
That's one of my favorite things.
Yeah. Be not afraid. But it's gone on, and you hear it with UFO things. The aliens had me on the table, but I didn't see their lips move. You hear it with abduction. You hear it with pretty much every aspect of, let's just call it supernatural, paranormal, whatever. You hear it with every aspect of it. When you get down to it, so much of this stuff has the same elements. It may look completely different physically, but the way it behaves and the effect it has on you, that's so similar at this point. You can't deny it any longer.
Yeah.
So
No One You Know says, as an open-minded skeptic, I do hope I'm at least semi-welcome here. Of course you are. Because I was a skeptic at one point. We were skeptical about Dogman.
We laughed. We made jokes about Dogman until we went up to the LBL.
We were completely skeptical about Dogman forever. I mean, we've believed in a lot of different things that seem a bit out there, but we were just skeptical about the whole Dogman thing.
And you'll just have that moment. I mean, if you're intellectually honest with yourself, you may have a moment one day when you have to stop and go, I came into this for answers. Nobody's making any money doing this sort of stuff. It's expensive. It's time consuming. The only real thing you get out of it is your own personal journey for answers at that point. And you go, I came into this for answers. Here's an answer that I wasn't expecting. And quite honestly, I'm not comfortable with. What are you going to do at that moment? Are you going to just deny it and then just go look for what makes you comfortable?
But the fact that you're here, the fact that you're open-minded, the fact that you're listening, that's a step in whatever direction that this is going to take you. If you never believe any of it, that's fine too. Do your thing. But it just seems like the more you get interested in this topic, the closer you get to being a believer. And
I mean, I still hear stuff on almost a daily basis that I just sit there and go, I have to stop and go, it's possible. I mean, my visceral response, my immediate response is, that's impossible. But guess what? I mean, before we went to the LBL, I would have told you that I thought Dogman sightings were just misidentified Sasquatch, or it was all creepypasta.
Yeah.
And then, you have to go, all right, if that's real, what else is real out here? All the other stuff I dismissed over the years. It's real. These people aren't lying. Some of them are. I mean, you get people that lie about anything, man, but the overwhelming majority are not lying about this stuff. So the world's a lot weirder. So yeah, be as skeptical as you want to. I mean, but I just ask that you at least give it a chance. Yeah, give it the possibility.
But every skeptic is one experience away from being a true believer. So Stephanie Light says, I've had different experiences when I was young. It was called crazy. Now everyone is talking about their experiences. They're always similar to mine. People are more open about talking about this now. I think that goes to say about a lot of things in the world. People are a little more open with sharing their experiences. And I think that's what's great about the community that we've all kind of built, and that we're all doing this kind of research, that we do this channel, that a lot of great people have channels. And that's getting it out there to everybody that it's okay to talk about your experiences and that it's safe to talk about your experiences, because some people will laugh at you maybe in your personal life, in real life, but we're here to listen. So it's just cool that everybody is comfortable enough to come out with their experiences and actually talk about them, because it's a lot more common than you would expect.
Jared Mitchell, maybe it would be a good idea to find their places of worship. I'm assuming you mean the occultists that we talked about earlier, and go look for cryptid at these locations. We do actively at one spot, and we have tried another spot. That is a whole nother level of complexity and danger involved in that. You have to admit that while it happens more often than what a lot of people think, people aren't dying from cryptids constantly or going missing from cryptids. That's still fairly rare. But the people that are involved with it are maybe a little bit more active in doing harm and all of that. So we do that, but again, it is that takes a lot of different precautions. That takes a different approach when you have to worry about that actively malignant human influence as well. So
yeah. Gret Life Trucking says, have you guys went too far before searching or found things that really scare you?
All of it's scary. I mean, all of it's the
Yeah.
fact that when I saw that thing on thermal, the fact that I'm going, what am I looking at? And then as I tried to process that, I'm just going, I didn't hear it. I didn't hear it move away. I didn't hear it move away when I looked down to get my flashlight and to change the settings on the thermal. I didn't hear it move. There was foliage back through there, and and forest floor duff, and I should have heard something.
Yeah.
I didn't hear anything at all. When you hear about this and the physical capabilities that they possess, and then the other abilities that they possess, yeah, it's scary. LBL scared us on that. Panther Town was frightening. Corpsewood Manor was scary.
Yeah. I think what the most scary experience for me was the Panther Town incident.
Yeah.
Because I completely lost control of myself.
Yeah.
I lost control of and agency over myself.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, it's definitely, there's some of the stuff is frightening. So
yeah, that's part of it though. Central Florida Bigfoot says, I'm not a Dogman person, but I believe in you two. I'm open-minded and hearing and seeing more. You guys are some of the best in the field. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, I think that the more you open yourself up to it, the more you see it. That seems to be a common thing amongst a lot of researchers and a lot of people that are doing this kind of work. Is they start from point A and then it develops and goes higher and higher and higher to like B, C, D. And then by the time you're over here, all of a sudden you're attracting more. And the more you open yourself up to things, and it's not like a hammer looking for a nail, it's the more you open up to these things spiritually and psychically, that they're going to come to you. That's why it's very important that you protect yourself while you're doing this kind of work, mentally, physically, spiritually.
I mean, I was not a Dogman person. I mean, the idea of a Dogman person was kind of laughable until a couple of years ago. If you look at any of our old stuff, I talk about how I was into Sasquatch research. She was into the paranormal. We blended the two. You never hear us talk about UAPs. You never hear us talk about Dogman. You never hear us talk about any of the other stuff that's out there. It took us having an experience at LBL to really kind of, and then all of a sudden, then we start looking at things that have happened to us with a different viewpoint. A lot of the stuff that's happened to us in North Georgia that we would just go, oh, it's Sasquatch activity. I didn't see a Sasquatch in that area.
No, you don't know what it is.
But we had other stuff happen that we just lumped in with Sasquatch because that's what you go into the woods expect, or at least we did. And now you're looking at it going, it's not Sasquatch we're dealing with there. So yeah, like I said, I mean, I don't blame you at all, Central Florida Bigfoot. I mean, it's how I was. I still will just occasionally stop and just go, this is crazy. I mean, I was willing to go up to Sasquatch, you know what I'm saying? And I was willing to admit that there was something to some of this paranormal activity, but the rest of it was just too far. I was not willing to go that far. But when you're confronted with it and you start seeing the pattern, I mean, I don't know, at least me, I mean, I'm still just boggled by it all. I'm just going, sometimes I'll just stop and go, this is the craziest stuff ever. What am I, I've just spent 8 hours, researching this stuff that like 3 years ago I would have thought was crazy, but now I'm just trying to cram in as much as I can on it. So hold on, I got to get this one. Our buddy Ozzy Baza.
Hello, Ozzy Baza.
Wait till the switch is flipped and they come out of the woodwork and start throwing cars on rooftops and tearing houses apart. You sound a little gleeful over that there, man. So a little gleeful on that. Huh?
Coin777 says, have you ever used Seek thermal attachment for a phone? No, we use thermal monoculars. We started out with a FLIR Scout TK. We went to a Pulsar Axion XQ38, and now we have an AGM thermal. But yeah, we really went with the monocular route, and the Pulsar is like a high dollar thermal that it does pretty well. But I'm actually happier with that AGM than I am with the Pulsar. But no, I don't use phone attachments because a lot of times the quality's not there. It's not what I'm looking for. So we kind of just went with, started with the Scout and went up from there.
1 second. AJ Bates said, men's hearts shall fail them. And I can't remember the rest of the quote, but it says something about they are shaking at seeing the things upon the earth that are coming for them. So, yeah, exactly. There's a lot of, it's pretty much every mythology, again, folklore, religion has talked about there's going to come a time when there's things from elsewhere here doing you harm. And that's when you're in the end of days. So, a lot of stuff with the RH negative stuff. Yeah, we're gonna have to do a show on that. Yeah.
People got Dogman and Bigfoot. They look in the windows. They should put a plank of wood with tacks under those windows.
They actually did that. They did that on one of the Monster Quest episodes.
That was where they had that. Was it they had that board with the screws in it? At that cabin.
I can't remember what the name of the lake was.
Only
but
be accessed by plane.
Yeah. And they had something stepped on there with 2 feet, and they said that it did not look like a bear. So yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was cool. It's very cool.
But they yeah, like I said, it's something that people have not really done, those like nail board traps. So
Jonathan Garcia says, do you believe in demons? I had a friend that was possessed and exorcised by a priest. It was a horrific experience. The house came alive. He's better now. I do believe in demons. Joe seems to think that ghosts are demons. So
I go back to, if you look at the Valet book, the Magonia book, Passport to Magonia that he has, and he has that cover, which is a creature that has an alien, a demon, and what looks like an old European fairy face. And it's just different masks on sticks. It's one entity portraying itself that way. I don't think any of this stuff is friendly. I don't, even if it doesn't particularly do you harm at that moment. I don't believe, even if it's not outright evil, it's no friend of mankind. So demon, I mean, there's a chance that all of it's demonic, man. So we're going to probably do a show on what's called the diabolical hypothesis, which is in counter to the extraterrestrial and interdimensional hypothesis for UAPs. There's the diabolical hypothesis that a lot of this is what you would consider demonic at that point, that it's been here since the dawn of man and it's never meant any good. And eventually it's going to try to take us off this planet. So
Joe is right. Ghosts are demons.
Yeah, no, and again, you know what? Maybe I'll have that opinion changed one of these days, but I don't, from what I've seen, what I've experienced, and what I listen to, I think that people have a tendency to anthropomorphize a lot of stuff. You see that with animals. They want to put human characteristics onto animals. So a lot of these things, and I think these things present themselves, and I mean, she and I don't necessarily agree on this, but I think that you're dealing with something that's presenting itself to you in a particular way in order to, if not gain your trust, but maybe get you to interact with it more. That's just my own personal opinion. Maybe that'll change over time, but
JB Palmer 2667 says, I'm a native to Northeast Georgia, and there's plenty of strange stuff that goes on in the woods around here. If you have any personal experiences with that, JB, could you email us? We're working on a project around Northeast Georgia right now. So if you have any personal experiences or you know anybody who has experiences, email me. Email is right there down below, hellbentholler@gmail.com.
Todd Brown says, and pagan folk like myself are not satanists. We've known pagans, we've known Wiccans, we've known people that were involved. A good friend of mine is one of the, he's very highly placed in one of the largest voodoo temples in New Orleans. And That's not what we're talking about when we're talking about this.
No.
We're not talking about
We
pagans.
talk about the satanic cabal and the government. We're not talking
Yeah,
about
we're not
any
talking
of
about
that.
any of that. We're not even the people that do this. They may not even. A lot of them do call themselves satanists, but again, it's not that Anton LaVey type, satanism that a lot of people associate it with nowadays. These are people that are just engaged in the worship of something dark for whatever rationale or whatever motive they have. That's what they're involved in. So.
Going down here.
Catching up. So.
Mothman 46 says, I'm near Minerva and we have lots of strange here. I've gotten Bigfoot and Dogman reports. Yeah, it seems like there's areas that seem to have they're like hot spots around. And I mentioned this earlier. I don't know if you were in here for that, but I'm always interested in what geological disturbances are going on in these areas that could be considered hot spots. Because I think that when the earth is moving or something's going on like that, I think that stirs it up too. I think that the spiritual world is connected to the physical world in such a way, especially through the earth. That's some woo stuff, baby.
That's some woo stuff, man. So
I'm not afraid.
God, there's so much stuff.
90% ghost people, 10% demons.
You know what it might be, and just that's a great point, because I said earlier that I think that there are several different things that feed into what we think of as Bigfoot.
But he's not gonna take that risk. So
there might be the same thing. There might be different things that feed into what we think are spirits. But I just logically, I have a lot of questions or problems with a lot of that stuff. But guess what? A lot of this stuff isn't logical. I mean, again, I might be sitting here 2 years from now going with a completely different. I mean, I have my theories that I do, but you've got to be willing to change your theories as new information presents itself. So
yeah. Mothman 46 goes, the only geological disturbance here is fracking. Yeah, that counts. That's like if you have a house and you start doing like an older house and you start doing renovations on it, and then the hauntings ramp up and activity ramps up and it starts to get violent after you've started renovations. I think that same concept applies to the earth. Is you're digging and you're destroying and kind of stirring these things up. I think it's the same thing. They say with Skinwalker Ranch that stuff starts to hit the fan whenever they start digging, right? So I think it's the same concept.
Martin Grove said he was a total skeptic. Patty lived in California. She was the only Bigfoot. Nothing else existed. He didn't believe until 1993, and I dismissed everything I dismissed until then. Exactly right. I mean, we made jokes up until we went to LBL just because it was an interesting story. The whole RV massacre thing was an interesting story, even if we didn't believe in it. And we wanted to take a road trip, and we wanted to expand out of our usual area of investigation. We came up with the idea of Dogman Summer, where we were going to spend the summer investigating Dogman. We started getting reports starting in Blowing Rock, North Carolina, and then working their way down southeast. And it was just person after person reporting the same thing to us. We started to pay attention to it. But guess what? It's one thing to conceptually go, wow, there's something here. There's another thing to believe it when it seems so crazy. And then you just have that moment where you just go, all right, well, if that's real, what else is real? And then it just seems like the floodgates open on it. I mean, trust me, it's overwhelming sometimes. I mean, if you're really going to, let's just, again, get to it. There's upright wolves walking around this country, the world, everything like that. They're real. They're killing people. Nobody really knows where they come from. Nobody knows why they're here. That's a lot to accept. It's not just sitting and talking about a creepypasta story you heard on YouTube or saw on Reddit. To stand there and go, this is real. This is real. And it's hard to grasp. It's really outside of what you've told your entire life is normal. You know what I'm saying? Or is real. So
what they Rumiel Acosta says, what they say are angels or demons, good and evil, could be relative. There must be a profound dynamics here that are beyond our understanding, and these entities could be the cryptids and aliens we see. That goes back to what Joe was mentioning about Passport to Pangonia, that they could all be just different
aspects of the same thing.
or presenting
Mhm.
as such. That they could be one thing, but they're presenting as another. And it goes back to that trickster element too, that this could be something older, something elemental that is like a trickster. And then it
Mhm.
presents itself as a Dogman, presents itself as a Sasquatch. You don't know. We have no answers. We have no direct answers. All we can do is go out and gather data as best we can and try to go from there, you know? But yeah, it could just be different facets of the same thing.
Cryptidville, it's all fun and games until it happens to you. Sadly, though, that's the only thing that will make a person a believer, and then your whole perception changes. Yeah, but can you blame them? I don't blame anybody. I mean, I have people tell me all the time that this stuff's crazy, and I just go, I mean, me arguing my point to them is not going to change their mind. In this day and age, no evidence that you give them is going to change their mind. Everything's either going to be CGI, it's manipulated video, it's just outright faked. Certain people are not going to believe no matter what's. You could lay a dead Sasquatch in front of them, they're going to tell you it's a mutated gorilla that escaped from a zoo. That's just been reinforced into you. Just like we talked about how the government has told everybody for decades that all this is fake and you're crazy for believing in it. A lot of people are just conditioned to that. I mean, I thought that Dogman, the idea of Dogman was crazy. It took me having an experience of my own to realize how wrong I was the entire time. So
yeah. Yep. We're gonna not have dead air here.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
so
God. Making sure you guys hit like on that. We've been we got throttled a couple weeks ago pretty badly.
Yeah, we did. A lot of people got unsubscribed that said they didn't unsubscribe.
Yeah.
And it's obviously just like anybody else, we're doing this for, we want to grow the channel and all that. I mean, we'd like to get to a wider audience, if nothing else, but because the amount of cases that we're hearing nowadays and the people that are contacting us with information, the wider audience we get, the more information we get on that.
Yeah, the more reach we have, we just have so many people contacting
us.
And
the more aspects, I mean, we enjoy doing this stuff. I mean, we're in it for try to get answers. We may never get them. It might just be about the journey, as trite as that sounds. But I mean, but anyway, we got really badly throttled for some reason. It happened right after that infrasound show for some reason.
Really
so
like it was right after that infrasound show that our reach just dropped off to nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's kind of picked back up a little bit. We got over 6,000 subscribers now. We just hit 6,000. So it looks like we're doing okay.
Whoops, that was a thing for tracker. Sorry, okay. I didn't catch the original question on that, but Coin777 goes, what model of thermal? We started off with a FLIR Scout TK, and then we got a Pulsar Axion XQ38, and then we got an AGM TM384 185, something like that, monocular, with thermal being passive, not giving off any like infrared light like traditional night vision does. We've decided to kind of go, when we do use night vision, we're going to use full spectrum. We're going to use that goes into the UV and the infrared ranges. Instead of, we're kind of getting away from traditional night vision, going more full spectrum or more thermal at this point. So
Grunt Life Trucking says, I remember when I was a kid living in West Virginia, we could not go into the woods by ourselves. All old timers says there was a walking beast in the woods.
Absolutely. That's all through West Virginia. Up through there. So.
I mean, I grew up in Western North Carolina, in Haywood County, and we would hear stuff like that. Like my grandmother would say stuff like that. And you could always attribute it that they're just telling you that so that you don't run off or you don't go out at night or anything like that. But there has to be some truth to some of this, or it wouldn't constantly be getting passed down and told. And they don't just tell it to small children; they tell it to adults too.
Yeah,
that don't go out. That there's something out there, and people in my family have seen these creatures in the woods. My uncle saw what were like a set of red eyes, like 9 feet up in the air, while he was out camping, and he always made fun of us for doing this. And then he finally one night was like, well, there was that one time I saw those red eyes like 9 feet up. Oh, I was like, yeah, that's not normal, dude. So there's stories for a reason.
Glenn Snyder, do you think the earth could be a seed DNA bank for many beings? It might be the fact that all of these different entities and these different phenomena all have different origins they're just similar in certain ways. I mean, again, there's no way of knowing. It seems like there's a lot of similarities between them, which makes me question that. But it might very well be true that some of these things, that Dogman are from this area and Sasquatch are from this area and the UAPs are from somewhere else. I mean, again, it's possible, I mean, it's possible. I guess there's no way of knowing right now with the data that we have. So. And
Glenn Snyder says everything is a bear or a
weather
balloon.
balloon. Yeah, exactly. Swamp gas. So.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we always make that joke. It's like, it's just a weather balloon. How many freaking weather balloons
are up and out there, for God's sakes, man. So.
And then the it's a bear thing. I know what a bear looks like. I know what the body of a bear looks like, and I have not seen a lot of bears in person. I will say I've seen probably 20 bears in person in my existence, and I can tell you what a bear looks like. You know? And we go into this a lot, that people seem to think that Native Americans didn't know the difference between a bear and what we would call a Sasquatch when they were amongst these animals, and that was their domain. That's where they lived. That's where they lived and died and lived their entire lives, was out in the woods. They knew the forest better than any of us ever could. But you just write off of what they said. Oh, you just saw a bear. I mean, it's laughable. I mean, it's absolutely laughable.
Harold Den, that Blowing Rock, Sugar Mountain, Beach Mountain, Western North Carolina is perfect tall ridge lines, perfect for them to live and seldom be seen. Yeah, or even if they're not living there, even if that's just where they're operating at for whatever reason. The first report that we got through there was actually from a Bigfoot researcher who had a family member had an encounter with something canine that chased her and then kind of got up on two legs while it was chasing her. And it's close family member. She was obviously shaken up about it. He's just into Bigfoot. He's not really not anything else. But we were closer to the area than him, and he just reached out and asked if I'd heard anything. And then after that, it was like the floodgates opened up. In that area, just going down through Kings Mountain and everything like that. It's that area just seems like there's a lot going on through there right now. For a while, that was the hot spot in our overall region. Now it's like Southwest Virginia, like we'd said. That area of Virginia, we're getting more and more reports from.
There's a conversation in the chat about whether or not these entities, or not these entities, but these creatures can sense cameras and avoid them.
Yeah, and you know what? I've heard some people say, no, that doesn't. I will say that there was a guy in Oklahoma that, when I was just involved in like Bigfoot research, that me and a few other people, this guy was not a Bigfoot person. I actually came across him on Reddit, because we'll occasionally like dip our toe into that cesspool and just look and see if there's like anybody talking about activity in the area. And this guy was having something come in his backyard, and it kept trying to get up to his kid's window. He thought one of his neighbors was messing with him until he saw it one night. He didn't think it was a Bigfoot. And nowadays, I don't think it was a Bigfoot either. But at the time, we thought it was, just because that was the only thing that I really accepted in my worldview. He kept talking about how it was like skinny. And he said, he kept saying it moved like a crackhead, like it had a very spastic, jerky movements to it. Anyway, he was able to ring his house in cameras, and the infrared light kept it back. But what's weird is it kept finding like little cracks. He had to keep putting more and more cameras out because it would like work its way through it. And eventually he sold the property and moved his family. If you look hard enough, you can probably find this story with even just the details I gave. But he sold his house, and then he and his family moved back to the South where he was from. He said he gave up, But it did seem like in that case, at least, that infrared light kept it back. I mean, and again, if you get to this, a warm-blooded creature should not be able to see in the infrared spectrum. Your own body heat would interfere with that. But there seems to be something to, at least in some of these cases, that these things can see in infrared. So
Harold Denton says, up above Haywood County in Spring Creek, North Carolina, a guy came on Dogman Encounters talking about his encounters and seeing werewolves since his teenage years in that community. I believe it. That's a really, really rugged area north of Haywood County.
Harold, could you send us that episode, just because there's so many?
Yeah, I'd like to listen to that.
We were in that general area, and we spoke to a lady one time, the guy at the survival school up there, remember? There was a guy that was running a survival school in the mountains up around that general area, up around Haywood County. And he stopped doing the survival school
because of all the activity.
because
he
of
was
all the
encountering.
activity.
He didn't think it was safe to take students up there anymore.
But the way he described them, this person was telling us as if it was Bigfoot that he was dealing with. But the way that this guy was describing them, it sounded more like upright
Dogman-like.
canines. Yeah. And this was this guy's bread and butter. And he stopped doing classes. And he's like, I'm not gonna be able to do classes until I can figure out how to get rid of these things. And we were never able to track that guy down. We were never able to track him, but that story's just stayed with both of us over the years. So yeah, if you can share that episode number, I'd love to be able to listen to it.
Yeah, most of my family still lives in Haywood County. So, but yeah, if you ever go that way and you go up, 40 and you go over from Haywood County into Tennessee, you can see how rugged that area is. You can see how rough that terrain is. And we take that route every time we're going up to Kentucky or wherever, or Tennessee. And it is some rugged land. And we talk about this all the time when we're on trips, looking out into those areas. You're like, my God, how can somebody say that there's no possible way that something could live out here and never be seen or never be detected?
Like that with Smoky Mountain National Park up there. People are like, oh, I go up there all the time. There's nothing there. Yeah, you go stay in a hotel outside the park.
And then you go on a designated trail.
And it's if we took this table right now and cleared everything off and just covered the whole table with salt and then took a needle and drug it through the salt, that needle line would be what the trail is, and everything else is something that hardly anybody ever else goes into and like walks. So yeah, I just think that people, it's like when people maybe go to like, I don't know, like Greece, and they stay in a resort, I love Greece. It's so wonderful. You saw a resort. You don't really know whether you like Greece yet, or, you could have gone to the same resort in any country and walked away with that. Mothman 46 has got an idea. We're effectively blind to a majority of the light spectrum. We are. I mean, there's a whole slew of activity and radio waves and everything like that going around us that exists. We just can't see it. Same thing like that with light. I mean, we can't see ultraviolet or infrared light. So
I got a super chat here. Otherworld strange stories.
Hey, thank you. Otherworld
thank
strange
you for
stories.
that. Yes. Have you ever seen other phenomenon that is something cited with cryptid sightings? Example, UAPs, ball lightning, something like that. We have experienced what I would call orbs, we
have yet to have what you would consider a UAP
cryptid
sighting
combo. Yeah.
We have not seen anything high up in we've seen it, but not in relation to cryptid stuff. But we have seen orbs of light.
We saw the orbs of light when we did a video where I had those eyes behind me. And then we saw that really sickly, weird, white, thin
wolf thing
down on the trail. I actually got that on camera. That's in the video.
See the eyes on that. Yeah,
you can
we saw the light that seemed like it came out of the ground. There's that light flash that
there was a flash behind me.
That doesn't seem to.
But there was I'm sitting in the truck and I'm looking forward and I see what is looks like about the size of a headlight. And it was like an old school headlight, a round one. And it looks like it just comes out in the woods and there's no road or anything there. It's just woods. And I'm sitting there and I see it. And then you and I are heading back up to where our camp is. And we see those lights on the hill kind of moving around.
Yeah.
But that's what we've experienced so far.
I saw that light just kind of like iris out that night. And we walked up to it. And that's where we found that glyph in the ground with the handprint and all that. That was up near that abandoned gear in the tree.
I don't think what we were dealing with that night was a cryptid. I think we were dealing with some evil hoodoo.
I don't know what that was.
But we were dealing with I don't think we had a cryptid situation. I think we had some bad woods witchery.
Alan Lasser, if somebody new at this, what's a good advice you would give them? I've been a believer for years because my dad being a salesman in the high mountains of North Carolina and telling stories about Bigfoot. If you're looking to get out into the field, just be safe, but do it. Start small and build. The one thing we try not to be critical of, a lot of people that are involved in this field, but this whole thing of just kind of, you're more interested in presenting that you were in possession of hidden knowledge and you're this
expert,
exotic Bigfoot hunting expert and everything like that. And you're more interested in the persona that you portray to people than you are in the actual truth. we're interested in finding the truth. We're not quite sure. We don't really care how we get there. More people involved in this, the merrier, the better. You know what I'm saying? So I would stress safety. Don't go in over your head.
Yep.
And do realize that there's going to be an inherent amount of danger just going into the woods, whether there's something there or not, if you don't know what you're doing. There's never been an easier time for you to get the basic skills that you need just to stay alive in the woods for a few days. The amount of classes that are out there, a lot of them free, it's just mind-boggling. So if you don't already have the skills where you feel comfortable going out and doing it, maybe build that skill base and then just get out there, man. Keep an eye, don't go for well, there was a sighting here back in 1972. Keep your ear to the ground and try to find areas that have recurring current activity. And if you can't find any, just pick a remote spot in your area and go out there and investigate. You might be surprised what you see. Maybe there's activity going there. It's just nobody has either seen it or nobody who has seen it has reported it or talked about it. So,
Angie Yarborough says, my family and I are going on vacation next week to Gatlinburg, Tennessee, to the Smoky Mountains. I'm a little nervous about what could be in the woods. You'll be fine. Gatlinburg is highly populated. If you're going to be in that area, you'll be fine. You will be fine. It's hard. It's a distance outside of Gatlinburg before you get anywhere that's super remote. So you'll be okay.
Daniel Garcia, many dogman sightings mention how the witness ran away from them. Do you think dogmen aren't deadly to humans? They seem to toy around with human beings. They do seem to toy around with human beings, but I think that the ones that they don't toy around with are not around to tell you about it afterwards.
Yeah.
I think that the fact that people go, well, they're usually not violent, it's because there's no survivors from most of the violent encounters. Martin, I don't know if Martin Groves is still on the chat or not, but if you look at Martin's story, and Martin's actually going to be a guest. He's probably going to be the first guest that we have on here, to be honest with you. We're not professional interviewers or anything like that, but I have spent a lot of time thinking about Martin's case because it's extremely important. Because if you look at it, I think what happened is these things were trailing him and his partner, hunting partner, all day long. Okay. And they were just kind of picking at him a little bit to maybe put him on edge. And they made their move at the end of the day from hunting when they expected them to be tired, have their guard down, and just relaxing around camp. And that's when they felt safe enough to try to take on 2 armed men, because I think they've done that before. I think that you hear all these missing hunter cases and the LBL, the empty tents, the empty tent that we found.
Yeah.
I think that's their usual MO. And I think that they've been able to get away from it. It's just that they bit off more than they could chew with Martin Groves that day. And where Martin was paralyzed, and he just felt like he couldn't move. And then he was able to just through sheer willpower break free and then started to fight, And Martin's very, very honest about his encounter and how it terrified him and how he was afraid during the whole thing. He was afraid during the whole thing, but he still fought back and they were able to get away. And I think that there's a lot of stories out there like Martin's, but they just don't end like Martin's did, where the person's just not around. It's just another missing hunter. It's another missing hiker or camper. It's another missing person story. And so I think that the fact that these things are just so highly aggressive that there's just not a lot of survivors from them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean.
So I guess it's time.
What's that?
James Barker, $5.
Cicada.
He wants the cicada sound.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so for anybody who's new, I tend to do the cicada sound when I talk about cicadas. So I have to do the cicada sound. Are we ready? Are we all ready?
Yes.
So there you go, James Barker. There's your cicada sound.
That sounds nothing like a cicada at all.
That's accurate. That is an accurate cicada sound. Let's see. Got a lot of great information for somebody getting started in the chat here. Go armed, find a good partner. Cryptid Response says find a good partner will be the first good step and slowly round up the gear.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't. I mean, we go with 2 people and that's the sweet spot for us at least. And I wouldn't recommend going by yourself. No. I just wouldn't recommend it. I mean, 2 people more, if you're able to have more people and actually get activity. That never seems to work out for us. We'll probably try it with more people down the road, but get at least one partner.
Yep.
One partner, drop the coin on a personal locator beacon. Get a Garmin InReach Mini that you can send satellite texts in addition to having the personal locator be thing. I don't know what your own personal beliefs are on it, but go armed.
Yeah, first 3 rules. Fire them always, locator beacon, leave the dog at home.
Yep.
The rest will come the more you go out. Yeah. Well, my biggest piece of advice for anybody who wants to start a YouTube channel or to start this research and do this work is to get started. That's the first step is always the hardest step when it comes to doing anything. So that is my biggest piece of advice. And I think a lot of people get really nervous about getting started.
South Force 10, amen on the Smokies. Hello, South Force 10. How are you doing tonight? So, Dead End Yard Hunt, your phone camera can pick up infrared. A lot of cameras can, there's an infrared filter in there where I'm actually looking at trying to modify some regular action cams. Some of them are easier to modify than others to get the infrared filter out. So you can actually get like more of a full spectrum type camera out of it as opposed to having like that light filtered out. So
Patrick Vaughn says, a common problem in research, people assume a lot from their own perspective instead of approaching it for the target species perspective. Yes, you go in with your own biases, you go in with what you expect to find. You have to think like what you're hunting. When that comes, you have to know your prey's behavior or your target's behavior. You can't expect it to behave like you would. So even with deer hunting, you have to know, how do these things behave? How would these things react? What would they do? Would they go this direction or that direction? I'm learning a lot about tracking right now. And so behavior is a part of that.
This is a good one. Ramil Acosta, dogman-like entities reported in the Philippines are shapeshifters called aswangs. The Bigfoot-like beings here are called capris. Chupacabra-like entities here are, I've never heard of that before, sigbins. But yeah, there's obviously people in yesteryear were just as creative as we are nowadays. What a weird thing to create that gets created over and over and over again.
Very consistently.
The aspect of a dog-headed man or a dog man. It's a strange archetype to have.
It's very consistent across cultures. It's like the pyramids were being built.
And you have just these recurring stories of things that come from somewhere else and end up breeding with humans. And then we end up with all of these strange things running around afterwards that are born on Earth, but they part of their lineage is from somewhere else. That just keeps recurring over and over and over again. And it's just awful strange that to me, that just now looking at it, the way I approach this stuff, that just seems like our ancestors knew what was going on more than we did. That the phenomenon was not as hidden as it was nowadays back then. And they were able to get it. And the stories they left us were, again, a roadmap on how to deal with some of this stuff. So
Arlene Freeberg says, hi, Hellbent Holler. Your channel was recommended to me by Jay Tucker from the Vault of Nightmares. I am not disappointed. Well, I'm glad you enjoy it. We love Jay. He's a very nice man. And we appreciate him recommending our channel. That is always appreciated.
Central Florida Bigfoot had a good one. Build your camera skill base to take a video or photography class. That is another big thing too, is that sometimes to me, it feels like we're chasing the phenomena with tech and it always stays a step ahead of us. However, the abilities that these things seem to exhibit are just so far beyond what humans are capable of. We need tech to kind of lower the playing field, to level the playing field. But the big thing is that learn how to use it. I mean, for photography or anything else, don't just go on Amazon and buy something. Spend the time. You have the sum of human knowledge at your fingertips. When I went to college, I did not study acoustics or anything like that at all. I've had to spend month after month after month of my free time looking into sound, looking into acoustics, looking into what's been proven about infrasound, what they know happens, and what people have just kind of like offhandedly said it's capable of. So any equipment that you get, spend the time on learning how to use it.
I had to learn how to video edit. I didn't know how to edit a single video. I had no idea how to do that. And I had to teach myself how to do video editing and graphics and yeah, you just have to learn how to use the equipment you have.
And you're not hurting anybody if you don't, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And if you want to get a tri-field meter or an EMF detector and talk to us about how it measures something that it's not designed to measure, again, at the end of the day, it's no skin off my nose. I don't care, you know, but I'm just for your own benefit. Anybody out there that's thinking about doing this, why waste the money on it if you're not going to know what it can and can't do and what it's actually supposed to measure? I mean, we have this measures within a certain frequency range. We have ELF detectors that detect a lower frequency of RF than this does. I have spectrum analyzers that measure that. I have Geiger counters. I mean, we have things that, so I guess if you're going to do this, if you do get equipment, take the time, if you're going to waste the money on it, to at least know what it does. Because otherwise you're using the tool for the wrong purpose and the data you get's not going to be useful. You just wasted your time and your money. So
yeah,
it's my rant on that. So
a couple people are talking about that tent we found, that tent you guys found. That was crazy. Yes. You can hear it in my voice in that video that I go like nuts over that.
Yeah, we were actually getting ready to turn around from there. And then we kind of saw it in the distance, and then I left Jesse and walked up on it. Because again, you're walking up on somebody's tent out in the middle of nowhere like that. And because that's not a camping area, that's just literally in the middle of nowhere in the LBL. And those claws that were on the tree, those weren't axe marks. That wasn't somebody out there hacking with a knife in it.
They had a curvature to them.
One of our research areas is next to the Pisgah Bear Sanctuary. We see black bear marks all the time on trees. We see mountain lions, how they mark trees. It wasn't that. I don't know what it was. I can't definitively tell you. At no point have we ever gone, there was a Dogman there. It came and took this hunter and then clawed the tree up in front of it. I don't know, but I can tell you that it didn't look like an axe mark, a knife mark. It didn't look like a bear. It didn't look like a big cat.
Yeah.
It looked like some sort of claw marks.
It looked like something went into the tree at one point and then it'll scrape the tree at another point. Stephanie Light says, do you think many of the missing 411 cases can be linked to Dogman or similar phenomena?
I think that some of them can.
Yeah.
I think that definitely some of them can.
I think so. I think that there is, you can't just nail down that it's one or the other of anything. I think that some of them have the hallmarks of what seems to be a UFO abduction.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them have the hallmarks of what could be a Dogman attack. So I think that it's kind of varied.
Dumpster Diving Dogman. Art Bell wrote a book on how to interview. I did not know that.
I didn't know that either.
I'm a huge Art Bell fan, and it's weird because I just started listening to Art Bell again after years listening to a lot of the old episodes, and let's just be honest, there's nobody involved in this field nowadays that does it like Art Bell did it and just has the variety of guests, and it's just so next level. But I didn't know that. I'll actually seek that out as soon as we get off line here. I'm going to go see if they have a copy of that somewhere.
Is it The Art of Talk?
I don't know, possibly.
Oh, okay.
All right. I remember hearing that, but I thought that was a biography of him. Huh. That's awesome. So
cool. Well, we'll look into it, and I would definitely want that book.
James Barker, is there a dumb, deep underground military base under the LBL? I think something's under there. Whether it's, from what we're hearing, that there was an actual government organized response to some of the, I've danced around some of this here, an organized government response to these things after the LBL was formed. And some of it may have been underground and some of it might still be underground to this day. And if you were going to do something like that, this side of the Rockies, that would be the place to do it.
Yes.
So and again, we don't have any illusions. I'm just a rube running around with off the shelf equipment and what we can modify. If the government's there wanting to stay hidden, they're going to stay hidden. You know what I'm saying? I mean, but we have some stuff that we want to try there to see if we can pick up. If there's an underground base, unless there's some sort of like buried cable, they've got to be using some sort of wireless communication technology. So we might be able to hone in on that. And that's all I'm going to say on that. But that's something that we're looking into.
It's so funny to watch you just kind of edge into something and dance around it.
But yeah, I think that there's something under, call me crazy. I think there's something underneath there. I didn't think that going into the first LBL trip. I didn't think that until the second LBL trip. And who knows, my opinion might change more down the road. But yes, I think that there's something underground there.
Martin says he and the wife enjoy my cicada impressions. So
Thank you, buddy. So here we go. And then this, over 600,000 people go missing in the U.S. every year. Think about that. And you know what you always hear? Oh, they just dropped out of society. They just wanted to start a new life. How are you starting a new life in this day and age? You're not like Jason Bourne. You got a shoebox of like passports and valid driver's licenses under your bed. People just don't drop. Some of them they might become homeless or whatever. There's not 600,000 people just dropping out and then changing jobs, changing names, getting a new family. There's a massive amount of people going missing with cell phones, with search and rescue techniques that dwarf anything that's ever come before this.
And you can knock off a few numbers for human trafficking, murders, kidnaps, stuff like that. But there's a large percentage of people that go missing in remote areas and are just gone.
And here's the deal. Unless it personally affects you, you don't pay that much attention to it.
Correct.
It's another story. You're bombarded with 24-hour news.
That you're just so distracted.
You're distracted. The story just disappears and goes on to something else. I always go back to the same thing. I have these reoccurring themes. Several years ago, if you guys remember, when that monkey was running around in Texas attacking kids and pets, and it went regional news, national news, and it was in the news for 2 days, and then it dropped. And then nobody ever mentioned, did they find the monkey? Was it a monkey?
We want answers about the monkey.
But that story dropped and nobody ever went, hey, this is weird that something's so out of the ordinary we don't have any resolution to. Not even coming out going, we don't know what happened. The attack stopped. Nobody has seen it.
So
something happened there. Something happened there and they shut that story down.
Oh, yeah.
But guess what? Nobody questioned it because guess what? Something else of equal personal importance to them came along. And it was forgotten. You know what I'm saying? I haven't forgotten. I've never forgotten about that damn monkey.
I will never forget the monkey.
I want to know what happened to that monkey. So.
Alan Lassender says, do y'all believe in gifting?
We have not done anything like that.
You know what we do? Every now and then, if we'll see something, I don't know if this wasn't in a video that we did, but I'll talk about like an incident that we had. We found what looked to be what you would describe as a nut cracking station.
I found what looked very much like a nut cracking station that is compared to what the North American wood ape guys have reported.
But it was a piece of quartz. It was like a piece of quartz, and something had been sitting there busting nuts.
And it was
but breaking them open, and you can tell that it had one flat piece and then had this big piece.
But it was like this big. Yeah. And it was a rock, and it was heavy, and it was not something that you could comfortably use. You would have used a much smaller rock. So that was just weird. So we would move that around to different spots and we'd come back like a week later and it would still be there, but be in a different spot. And then it just disappeared. But I don't think that these things are something that you personally want to have a relationship with,
No.
So we don't try to gift or.
So we'll kind of change stuff around to see if anything changes for the next time we come back, but we don't want to have any sort of personal relationship with these things. All right, we have a ton of chats that came in.
All right,
I guess YouTube might be lagging just a hair.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. Jonathan Garcia says, "Do you guys put on a cover scent when you go out in the field?"
Sometimes we try not to maintain a pattern. Sometimes we'll go out and we'll be fairly loud and talk and use white light. Other times we'll go out and we'll put, scent cover on. Use red light, try to stay quiet.
Yeah, normally we like to vary our techniques and vary things because we don't know what kind of combination is going to have reactions and what's not. We try that scent experiment because of a part of a story that somebody said. So we tried a scent experiment down in the LBL. And so maybe if we have a scent to us, that might draw something in. Or if we have no scent, we can kind of sneak around. But I don't know. We like to just vary it from instance to instance.
Trucker, in The Seriousness of Sasquatch by Scott Carpenter, he finally tells his entire Dogman encounter. I won't spoil it. It was pretty serious at the time. Okay. I don't know if that was on his YouTube channel or not, but I'll have to go check that out.
Good night, Barton. Barton's going to bed.
Barton, good night, sir. So I'm not familiar that he released the entire story about that. I remember the video and the images that he put out after this happened. So
thank you, JB Palmer, for sending us that email. I will check that when we get done. We are moving along here. Yeah, you guys are shuffling ahead.
RS always check up in trees. Yeah, we do. We keep we've got an MO that when we hear something or experience something, one of us focuses on what's going on and the other one starts checking our backsides and up around us. We spend a lot of time looking up in the trees because we go into some really heavily wooded areas is where we're generally at. A lot of that just doesn't make its way into the video because we've never seen anything in the trees before. And but yeah, we spent a lot of time looking up in the trees at that point. And especially you get into these areas with really dense tree cover. I mean, there could be something 15 feet away from you. You'd never know it. So
we got some comments about the monkey. Let's get back to this monkey talk.
Right, hold on. Hey man, I'll talk about that monkey all day long.
That monkey is work at my place now. And then we had another guy that said, I want to know what happened to that damn monkey. It's crazy. We never heard any more
it's
about
crazy.
it. They
And
shut it down.
I'll get on the monkey soapbox again.
Talk about this monkey conspiracy.
What happened is, and I'd have to look it up. For as much as I talk about it, you'd think I'd have it memorized, like, chapter and verse by now. But there was a town that started reporting that there was a monkey attacking pets and kids. And it was a local story that went regional and then went national. And it was one of those things where a Texas town experiences strange monkey attacking children and all that. And they interviewed the local, animal control guy, and they didn't know what it was. And they were trying to figure out if a monkey had escaped, captivity. Maybe somebody had it illegally, and they were checking with like all the private exotic animal collectors in the area, but it was attacking children and pets. And then the story just stopped. And maybe even if on a national level, people get bored. Maybe the people in Wisconsin don't care about the Texas monkey. The people that are in Texas, I would still want to know that there was some resolution to this.
They're really doing a disservice to the people of Texas.
Yeah, but they just shut it down, and nobody ever questioned. Nobody ever just stopped and went, "Hey, y'all bombarded us with that monkey story for 24 hours. I want to know the resolution of this." It was just never done, and it's never mentioned again. There's no follow-up. We've looked through everything on it. So
Alan Lassiter says, do y'all think smoke
choked up talking about the monkey?
He's getting riled up about the monkey, you guys. We have to calm him down. Do y'all think smoke or campfires would bring them closer? A lot of people, when they have experiences, they're out camping. They're doing normal stuff. They're not out there hiding where they are or sneaking around in ghillie suits. A lot of encounters are occurring when people are just doing normal stuff out in the woods, going and having a campfire. So yeah, I mean, it could. That's why we like to vary our approach with everything. Are you okay?
Got choked up talking about that damn monkey. So
we like to vary our approach and how we approach things. Sometimes we'll go out there and I'll start as a fire, and we'll sit there and have a campfire for a while, and then we'll go hiking around. We just try a little bit of different bits of everything. Are you all right?
I'm fine. My throat got dry talking about the monkey.
You got cranked out. You got cranked out about that.
All right.
Monkey.
So War Criminal 7. I know the metallic noise is the key to bad things happening. That is something that we're going to do a show on, and that seems like you're going, well, that's a pretty small topic to do a whole show on. Obviously, this got a lot of attention with Martin Groves' story. Heard that sound twice. There's a few other people that have reported it. All right. Well, this is something I've been working on gathering information on for a while now. Those are not the first people. This is not a new phenomenon. If you go, it's in the Bigfoot community. There's been lots of talk of, I heard a car door slam out in the middle of the woods when there was no cars around in an area where I'm finding Bigfoot activity. And then you question them. It didn't really quite sound like a car door slamming. It sounded like metal slamming really loudly, but a car door slamming is the closest equivalent that they can come up with. There are people Bigfoot researchers who have heard what sounded like sheet metal being shaken or even torn in some of these areas, but you just hear these constant anomalous metallic sounds in areas with Bigfoot. And I still stand by the fact that I think a lot of times these people thought that they were investigating Bigfoot. They were investigating Dogman. They just naturally associated something big and hairy in the woods with Sasquatch, even though maybe the physical appearance lended itself more closely to Dogman. So this phenomenon's been going on longer, and it's more prevalent than a lot of people realize. And I agree with you 100%, War Criminal, that it's key to bad things happening. All of them seem to have negative aspects, even if it was just maybe not a physical attack, but the person will report that it was a very menacing and environment to be in. I didn't feel right. It really scared me. It really spooked me out. One of the guys does a lot of research on his own in the same area where Tom Messick went missing. That's the gentleman that went missing in the Missing 411, the Hunters documentary, and his family and friends reported hearing what sounded like a big metal trap going. My friends heard that same thing in that area. He does a lot of solo Bigfoot research, not really into Dogman. He's out sometimes 3 or 4 days by himself in the woods. So obviously he's got a pretty high threshold for being creeped out. That sound terrified him for some reason. He didn't quite know why. So yeah, that's there's
It's insanely out of place.
It's insanely out of place, and I don't know what it is, but it's tied into something's going to happen or something is happening at that point. So
I've got one up here. Where did it go? Where is it? You really stirred these people up with this monkey talk. Harold Denton says, how many dumbs do you know of in Western North Carolina mountains? Heard there might be one near Cashiers, North Carolina. So that's a Mary Joyce thing. She talks about that a lot. She talks about deep underground military bases a lot in North Carolina. She runs the Skyships Over Cashiers website. She also talks about Cherokee Little People. So she goes into kind of subjects that are notorious around that area. I don't know. It's believable that there is a possibility that there could be deep underground military bases. I know that in the upstate of South Carolina near Lake Jocassee, there is a known Duke Energy hydroelectric plant inside of a mountain, and it's huge. It's absolutely huge, and it's deep inside this mountain, just above Jocassee Lake. And so it's definitely a possibility.
There's a base in the Blue Ridge Mountains up near the Shenandoah Valley. In the side of the mountain, side of the mountain will peel away and a road goes into it. And if you go into that area, at least now this was decades ago, everybody thought that there were pot farmers up there because guys in like really rough camouflage holding like deer rifles would come and chase you out of there. So the story was, don't go up there because there are pot farmers up there. And then it turned out to be that there was literally a hollow mountain up there that nobody ever knew what it was for, whether it was for like the national, for the continuity of government program, to keep people, safe in the event of a war or something like that. But it was up there and it exists, and it probably exists to this day, So, Martin was still on here a couple of minutes ago. Yeah, Martin, when I spoke to you the other day, I told you I was looking into those noises and that it was a lot more prevalent than what a lot of people thought. I'm still slowly getting that information. I used to have a pretty good network of like Sasquatch researchers that I'd speak to from across the country. And I'm a little kind of a pariah to a lot of them now just because we've kind of gotten a little bit out there. But I'm talking to a lot of them, and a lot of them just associated it with Sasquatch. But they'll go, yeah, I've caught this. Some of them have audio of it. Some of them just have first-person accounts of it. Some of them have second-person accounts that they've heard from other researchers. But it's been going on for a while, and it never, ever seems to be good. So,
Tracker, how about your boom that sounded metallic to me? I don't know. Are you referring to?
He's talking about the boom we caught on camera.
Oh, the couple of booms we got. That sounded like a shipping container
being hoisted up and dropped.
Yeah.
It had a metallic kind of boom to it. Like it sounded like a hollow shipping container lifted up 50 feet in the air, then just dropped down. You could feel it in the ground, but it was a percussive metallic boom.
We got a really good audio of that in the video. Yeah. There was a really good audio of that. That area has legends of weird sounds like that going back hundreds of years. But yeah.
Mothman 46, everyone has forgotten about the Ohio wallaby already. I don't think I ever knew about the whole.
No one cares about this wallaby?
Yeah, I've never heard of that before. Martin's the exact same way about me. Mixed emotions about gifting, a couple of angles. One, it's almost like presenting an offering, like showing they were a form of deity. If you look at the parallels between European folklore and then the modern gifting thing, there's a lot of parallels between it. You would leave these entities offerings of bread and milk and sugar and everything like that. Well, not sugar back then, but like bread and milk and cream and everything in order for them not to kill your livestock, not to snatch your children, not to do anything like that. Yeah, it's an offering. It's basically an offering at that point. That's why we really don't get involved in gifting. We don't really try to have we don't try to have what some people want to have a relationship with these things. We just
no.
I don't think that any of these things are good, even if they don't actively cause you harm at that moment. you know, people come within 20 feet of mountain lions out in the woods sometimes and they don't attack them. That doesn't mean that these mountain lions are their friends or have their best interests at heart. And a mountain lion is just an animal. I don't think these things are animals. I think these things have malicious intent towards us. And you can think that's overly dramatic all you want, but that's my story.
Harold Denton says, one of my friends is an ex-Marine. He works at the Weather Mountain Underground Base located by Winchester, Virginia.
Yep.
He just works on the grounds crew. It takes care of the outside property.
And there was a rumor of that for years up there, that was in that hotel. And they denied it. And then the story broke. And then it was what residents through there had known all along was true. Same thing with this mountain up there. People up there know that those are not pot farmers up there growing off, that there's something more, and everybody hears about the door that opens up in the side of the mountain. So
yeah, a lot of people here in the chat are talking about the Hollow Mountains in New Mexico and other places. So.
Again, we've the whole UAP thing. We know they lie to you. No, there's no Hollow Mountains there. That's crazy. You told us the same thing about UFOs.
The government is lying.
Yeah.
To
So
me?
yeah, I mean,
What?
it's just. Dumbs.
We are coming up to a late hour too.
Yeah,
guys.
we'll keep going. We've still got some pretty good responses, but we'll keep going here for a little bit. So, but all right, hold on. This is a good one.
Oh, sorry.
All right, hold on. Let me hit this first. Alan Lassiter, have you ever heard of them belly crawling? That is something that fascinates me. I've heard of them. I don't know if we've ever seen anything. I mean, there could have been one 10 feet away from us on its belly. That was something that seemed like nobody was talking about, and then it just came out of nowhere, the spider crawl.
Yeah.
Remember that? And then people would kind of struggle to describe the way they moved with it. And it just seemed like that kind of caught on, and more people were willing to kind of come forward and talk about it. So I don't know, but it's the way it's described as moving. It always comes across as unnatural to it. And for some reason that fascinates me. The fact that these things would move like that. The thing that we saw.
It doesn't seem like it's physiologically a
good
way to move for something that large.
Well, if it was trying to stay hidden, if it's that tall, that would be perfect way for it to move. But the thing that we saw, that wolf thing that we saw in North Georgia, it seemed like its limbs were too long and they were out to like it was hunched in a way that a dog would not be able to hunch and still walk. I still don't think that thing could have. It didn't look like it was bipedal down on all fours.
No.
It just looked, I'll be honest with you, it's not anything we've ever talked about publicly before, but closest thing that I could describe it being, you think I'm crazy all you want to, like something out of John Carpenter's The Thing. Like you took a spider with a dog because the limbs were so long and out to the side, and it's almost like that. It was almost like a spider crawl canine. And it was weird. You could tell it shook us up when we saw it. At first, we're like, is that a coyote? Because nobody's expecting to see anything like that, you know?
Nighthawk High Strangeness. Yes, I can trust the government.
What's
just
up, buddy?
Any Indian.
You know, we've got some friends who were part of the Catawba and the Cherokee nations that we talk to about this stuff all the time. Because again, you have to don't ignore the stories that they pass down just because you think that you can't talk about that. You're not part of the tribe. Yeah, nobody's part of the tribe, but they were right. Admit that they were right about some of these things because they were in proximity to them. Anyway, you go to the Cherokee Museum north of us, you walk through that. And if you come out of that trusting the government in any way, shape, or form, you know, it's crazy. And you know, what's weird too is that one of the things that I did not know before I went into this, that's just like a little segue. We're in South Carolina.
Also, Jonathan, he can say Native American. He's a Native American. He can say Indian. He's a Native American.
So one of the things I didn't know is that there's such a thread of just distrust of authority in South Carolina. And one of the things that I didn't know, because I'm not from this area, I'm from further north, her family's from this area, but is that when they ripped everybody up, which is just a common occurrence in this part of the country, ripping people off their homelands and put them on the Trail of Tears, there were a lot of South Carolinians who had fought side by side with a lot of these Native Americans that were trying to form up militias to try to help them. Then they could never get organized. The government would bust the effort before it happened at this point. But yeah, absolutely.
Every time we go up to the museum in Cherokee, a lot, and like when we go up there, every time we come out of there, we're like, man, If we did not just distrust the
Government
government to begin
before
with,
you at this
I
point,
mean,
yeah, absolutely.
that is
so,
a easy way to get just black pilled on that, you know.
mm-hmm. Spooky chick, they only want you to no, that was the thing, is that these guys were dressed like pot farmers, but they didn't act like pot farmers, and they did not physically look like pot farmers. That was the cover to keep people from going up there at that point. That you didn't want to go up there because the pot farmers had an illegal grow operation. That's not what it was at all. They were trying to cover up the whatever that base was up there, man. So yeah, now, you're from where I grew up at. I grew up in Stanton. And yeah, you probably know the exact same story. You probably know the exact same story up there. And it's probably still going on to this day. I doubt they stopped it. I mean, something like that's got to be a massive undertaking to do. So,
Boy, everybody's talking about these deep underground military bases.
so tonight the thread has been RH negative blood, deep underground military bases, and now the sounds are everybody are talking about, the metallic sounds. So
Harold Denton says that Mary Joyce lady has a YouTube channel. I don't think she does. She has skyships.overcashiers.com. She has a blog on there. She's an older lady. I don't think she has a YouTube channel. But she writes about that a lot.
AJ Bates, skinwalkers or shapeshifters or deceivers. I think a lot of these things are deceivers. I think a lot of these things, especially when you get into the pure like UFO aspects of it, and the things that these entities tell people, we're here to save you, we're here, your friends, and everything like that. You're from an advanced civilization. You were capable of doing pretty much almost anything you want to do. If you were here to save us, you could be taking extremely proactive steps to do that. Just telling me that you're here to save me and then putting me under extremely painful, invasive medical procedures that are barbaric by our level of medical technology, let alone whatever you're capable of doing, is not our friends. I don't approach this that any aspect of this phenomenon is friendly towards us, has our best interests at heart. At worst, it's completely malign, completely malignant towards us. At best, it's so indifferent to us and so alien and different, it might as well just be pure evil.
Yeah, this is a good follow-up to that there. Yeah. JB Palmer says, yeah, don't gift these things. They have their place and we have ours. Doing research is one thing, but trying to play Harry and the Hendersons is dumb. Agreed. Yeah, you don't know what their intentions are. You don't know what they are. You don't know what they're capable of. So I would not get myself involved directly like that. There's one thing to do research and to look into this and then go out there prepared and armed and ready to, if something happens, but to try to interact with them directly like that and then sort of make offerings in a way, that's not my bag.
Jonathan Garcia, how come no one is talking about skinwalkers? I think that it's weird in this particular area we're in. There's a couple things that you don't see historically. You would see things that the Native Americans would talk about that were then kind of continued once the European settlers got into this area and still continue to this day. In our area, you don't really see a lot about giants. You have the Sul Kalu story, the slant-eyed giant that the Cherokee dealt with. That was a rarity as opposed to what people out west and in the the Pacific Northwest and out west were experiencing as far as like larger creatures. There's really not a lot of shapeshifter tradition through here that people experienced back then or today for some reason. It seems like there's other areas that I'll be honest with you, if you want to just overly generalize a lot of stuff, this area, this region, spook lights, orbs, stuff like that are a lot of times are I wouldn't hostile. They're missing people that have been associated with these lights. That's really prevalent through this region. Larger hairy things, but not as big as the giants that you hear about in the Pacific Northwest. You know what I'm saying? Like, 7 feet, 6.5 feet, something like that. You get a lot of those. You're getting a lot of canine stories, upright canines or mystery canines. You hear a lot about the hyena-like creatures through here, but there's just really not a lot of shape-shifting stuff, at least in the area that we operate in, or a lot of like mountain giant type stuff or anything like that. So
Matt Keene says, don't start talking about skinwalkers again. Everything will
everything did go crazy. So yeah.
One spooky chick says, once you stop gifting, you
Yeah, I
make
think
them
when you
mad.
start, I mean, there's so many stories from like the like 20 years ago and like Bigfoot research that once you started feeding these things, that once you took the food away, you were dealing with something that was very angry at that point.
James Barker says about the same thing. Plus, people gifted with these creatures, if they stop, things go south quickly. Yeah, you give a mouse a cookie.
So does that sound like a mutually beneficial, friendly relationship, or does again that sound like Danegeld? You're paying this thing not to kill your livestock, destroy your property, attack you or your family. That's not something that we're interested in, like kind of like involving ourselves with. So
holy smokes, you two are still going after 3+ hours. Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to wrap it up probably in the next like 10, 15, 20 minutes or something like that. So,
because I have exhausted
out of water.
water.
We get going with this and then like a new group of people come in
Yeah.
and, everybody's still going strong. So, and Jonathan Garcia's got a good point. The thing you saw long arms might've been a skinwalker. Just because there's no parallel to the folklore or the traditions of this area doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I mean, you see parallels and you see patterns and everything like that, but that might have been going along. They're just nobody to report it. You know what I'm saying? Nobody's really ran across it or gotten a way to report it at that point. It might very well have been. It was weird, whatever it was. It happened so quick and we both just got to look at it and we instantly go coyote. And then we're like, that's not a coyote. What is that? I mean, you can see it in that video. We're walking back. Jesse's like, that wasn't a coyote. And I'm just like, I don't know what that was. I don't know what that was. I went back in the woods. I couldn't find it. It was gone. Or if it was there, I couldn't see it. So
Corey, did I get you? Where's it at? Where you at? Corey. Hi. I guess that's hi. Hi. Yeah. Jesse and Joe, I have some interesting pics. Could I send them to you? Get your thoughts. Yes. If you would like to send us an email, our email is scrolling at the bottom right there. Take a look. It is scrolling at the bottom. We have our email, which is hellbentholler@gmail.com. And we also have our P.O. box because people seem to like to write us letters as well. That's totally cool too. I like checking the P.O. box and finding a letter in there. So you are more than welcome to send us an email or a little letter to our P.O. box. And you can always get in touch with me on Instagram at hellbentjesse.
Mothman 46. What about the instances that they gift you? I'm familiar with all the stories like that, like Tom Powell would talk about how they'd leave them like bird feathers and all that. But we've never had anything happen like that with us. No. We've come across some weird stuff that I don't think was left there particularly for us, but I've never had it try to gift us or anything like that they know about. And there was Night Hawk's got a great idea. There are shapeshifters everywhere, guys. Yeah, there probably are. Just because you're seeing something in one form doesn't mean that it's not capable. Again, you've got to just come to the realization that what we think is reality is it's not really written in stone.
Good
the way
night,
we
Frank.
So,
sorry,
it's okay.
A lot of people logging off.
Yeah, we're gonna probably cut in the next couple minutes. So
everybody's like, I'm tired.
Yeah, exactly. So actually, let's go ahead and wrap it up. I know we got 143 people in here, but still,
no, we can keep going.
We'll go a few more minutes. If anybody's got anything else, we're gonna start to kind of wrap it up. So if you speak now or
forever, well, hold your peace until next Monday at 8 p.m. when we do another live stream. We're thinking about doing maybe a themed one next time where we have like a topic. But these little hangouts are doing pretty good. I think everybody really enjoys the conversation kind of flowing in a natural direction, and you talk about kind of what you want to talk about.
Mothman 46. I'm Cryptid Pro Kill. It's all good. I don't even know what that's in relation to, but yeah, you know what? I mean, we're not running around guns a-blazing out there, and I mean, I'm a firm knower in the fact that once you pull a trigger, you're not getting that bullet back. You know what I'm saying? So we're not trigger happy or anything like that. But I mean, there are people out there that specifically go into the woods looking for these things. There was a thing called the Grendel Project a few years ago where people were really actively planning on going out there and trying to bag one. You know what I'm saying? So I know a lot of people really kind of get upset about that. People who take a very benign like view of these creatures and the phenomena in general. I don't have a benign view of it. Even if somebody had a pleasant encounter, that doesn't wipe away all of the unpleasant encounters that are out there and are becoming more and more prevalent. So, Injured Cold, yeah. We're a little bit further south of the West Virginia lore, the whole Mothman, Injured Cold thing, and everything like that. We're familiar with it. We don't really. That's such a West Virginia specific thing.
Yeah.
And we rarely get into West Virginia to research, so we don't really spend a lot of time on it, but we're familiar with the lore with it and all that.
Yeah,
So
familiar with the story and everything. Aussie Baza again. So it's good. Aussie Baza again. In my research, I've seen 3 Bigfoot. The first one was the color of a golden lab. The second one had a cloaked predator thing about the size of a dog running in front of it. This whole cloaking thing, this it's semi-reflective exterior on these things, that seems to be a recurring theme. And it not just with Sasquatch, but it seems like that's starting to be reported with Dogman as well.
Please do send us emails. I'm backlogged on emails right now. She's backlogged on emails right now. She's backlogged because she handles the social media aspect on Facebook messages and everything like that. But send them, we'll get them to you. And if you send it and we don't respond within a couple of days,
you can follow up.
I might have just been when you missed it. It might have gone to the spam folder. Send a little love and positive vibes to people in West Florida. Yeah, I mean, we both lived in New Orleans for a while. We're both painfully aware of being in hurricane territory. So,
and my parents are headed up. My parents live in Florida. They're headed up here shortly, so my parents will be evacing for that. So yeah.
Mothman 46. When does the Hellbent Holler drop the Lizard Man? We've actually been talking about that. We'll go into more in depth on this, and I wish I could get back in touch with this guy. But if you watch our videos, you know we're into gear. We like knives and everything like that. So we collect knives. We'll have a knife for a while. Sets in a drawer. Hey, I'm going to sell this knife to get money to buy another knife. I was selling some knives to a guy online one time, and he checked out like our stuff and was just going, wow, you guys, go out and like look for Bigfoot and do everything like that. I'm like, yeah, it's kind of what we're into. And he goes, hey, well, my family is down near Skateboard Swamp. My uncles are responsible for hoaxing the Lizard Man story. And I'm like, what, really? And he goes, oh yeah, my uncles are responsible for hoaxing that. And of course you're a little, you obviously you're interested in these things. You want them to be real. And then he came back with, after we had discussed it for a couple of days, he goes, all right, no, I'm going to be honest with you. That's what we tell people. And I'm like, what do you mean that's what you tell people? We play it off as a hoax because we don't want people down here like looking for it. Because I guess they've got a festival, but it's one of those tongue-in-cheek festivals.
There's like a little restaurant.
Yeah, but it's more like, look at our goofy little local legend, guys. You know what I'm saying? But he's just like, oh, it's just what we tell people. And then he just went dark and we never talked anymore after that. But I mean, I've always just gone, well, if you're trying, what are you covering up, man? If there's nothing to cover up, why try to cover something up? So yeah, we're going to get down there and try to look into it. And
yeah, that's going to be fun because we don't do a lot of stuff in swamps.
Yeah.
And that's kind of out of our wheelhouse. So that's going to be a lot of fun to kind of pop into a swamp and check that out. It'd be nice to go into some different terrain. Mike Baraball says, have you ever had a spirit follow you home? Yes,
we've had something follow us home.
We've had something follow us home. We talk about the hitchhiker effect ad nauseum, and we've definitely had some stuff happen after we've been on a really intense investigation. We've both seen like sort of like shadow figures in the house, heard knocking, heard voices. So on a regular basis, I like to cleanse the house, sage it, and make sure that it's not hospitable to negative energies or entities.
Track, I don't know if that's directed to us or not, but we had some big 4-toed prints that we were able to actually cast. One of them, we don't do a lot of casting, but I don't know what that was. It was weird. It was definitely weird. So,
Do you believe entities can show themselves in your dreams like psychic attacks? Yeah, that's part of psychic attacks too. If you have sort of, what is that? Mental trespassers, psychic attacks. It's a Dion Fortune thing. But yeah, I think that if something is psychic attacks or entering your subconscious, yes. If the veil has been thinned in your mind, if you don't have your defenses up, things can absolutely come through if you let them in.
How about the swamp ape? Ever seen one? We have a friend in New Orleans who hunts Honey Island Swamp all the time. I mean, he basically lives in there. And what's weird is that the skunk ape down there, Honey Island Swamp Monster, I have never met anybody personally or even heard secondhand information that anybody had anything happen down there to them about it. I think there's some weird stuff in the deep swamps back in there where people don't go to. I mean, you'll run across families back there that you can barely understand what they're saying because there's been no new people there, nobody's left, and just the language has gotten insular there. It's been so isolated. But it's weird. I've never met nobody ever. I could never find anybody that actually had any sighting or anything on Honey Island. Most people down there don't even know about that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
do you have plans for a Halloween investigation? Yeah, we're gonna do something for Halloween. We're working on doing a live stream, a night vision live stream. So if we can get the kinks worked out of that and the bugs worked out of that, we will definitely do that. That's what we're planning on doing for Halloween, right?
Yeah, if I can work the tech out for it. We're still trying to.
It's all a matter of figuring out how to make it work to where we can live stream in night vision, not just live stream with a flashlight and a phone. We want to live stream with infrared light. So we're working on getting all that together. Good night, Dead End Yard Haunt. Hitting the hay, are you, my friend?
Yeah. Hold on, let's see. Yeah, we're probably getting ready to. What's the deal with swamp gas? What makes it light? If so, that's fool's fire. That's what they used to get with the basis for like will-o'-the-wisp and everything like that with. It's gas that might either ignite briefly or has some sort of like luminescent properties to it. But what we've seen as far as like orbs go and the spook lights are not swamp gas, and the will-o'-the-wisp behavior mimics exactly with what you see at these spook lights. These lights that just kind of dance through the woods and almost seem like they want you to follow them deeper into the woods at that point. So we'll go for a couple more minutes and then we'll cut it up. So
okie dokie. All right. Any little people encounters within your research areas? Yeah, there's a lot of legends of little people, Cherokee little people in our area. And in our first video, we find a tiny little footprint up in like a cave overhang in an area. It's winter. There shouldn't be any children up there, but it was a tiny little footprint. And then we heard what sounded like tiny voices, but deep tiny voices. It was really, really weird. And there's a lot of abandoned mines in that area. And in the little people lore, it seems like they're sighted or they've been around. They're around like where mines were. There's a lot of like stories of old miners running into these like tiny people. So yeah, the Cherokee little people is a big thing up around here. I know at Western Carolina University, they had tunnels underneath that they found when they were building some new buildings. And one of the professors there even had a tiny little skull that he had on his desk for a long time. So they found bones, they found teeny tiny little arrowheads, they found all kinds of stuff. So there was physical evidence at one point, but it's lost. It's lost to grave robbers and time at this point.
Yeah. So, all right. If nobody's got anything else, you want to go ahead and wrap it on up?
Yeah, we
were gonna stick to 2 hours, and that didn't work. So
yeah, it definitely didn't work. Okay.
Yeah, it didn't work. Hey guys, this was a great conversation again. And again, this is not just blowing smoke up. I don't interact a lot on social media. If you follow me on social media, you can tell I barely say anything on social media. I don't get involved in a lot of the groups. There's a couple that some friends of mine run, like Daryl's group is really good, and then Barton's group's really good, and the Paranormal Roundtable group's really good. But we follow a lot of other groups just because we like to keep our ear on the ground for like local activity. I just don't really get involved with a lot of that stuff.
Mhm.
But some of the stuff that we get is like amazingly like insightful and
Yeah, you
interesting
guys
and
that
creative.
email us are
And
amazing.
it's stuff that I didn't think of yet. And I try to put a lot of thought into this stuff. And it's stuff that constantly that I'll just be like, I never thought of that before. So please keep it up. I mean, it's great. I mean, no one person's going to crack this. It's going to be a group effort. And, again, like I said, it's just, it's great hearing all these different, and even if I don't agree with it at that moment, I still like to hear it. You know what I'm saying? It's another data point. And I especially like hearing the stuff where you go, hey, this happened to me. And I go, never heard anything like that about it at all. Now I have to kind of go back to the drawing board and rethink some things at this
Yeah.
point. So, anyway, this was a great live stream, guys. Thank you all so much.
Yeah, this has been really good.
If you guys had a question in the chat that we didn't see because it was moving pretty quickly, email us. One of us will get back to you. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, you can always email us. You can
Yeah.
email us hellbentholler@gmail.com.
And if you guys like the idea about a themed live chat one night, which we don't necessarily have to stay to that theme, we can veer
Yeah,
off like if
just
we
a
want to.
direction.
But a direction, if you guys are into that, let us know. Again, like the podcasts are kind of where we like to really kind of explore topics that maybe other people aren't talking about, as far as the subject goes. But the live chats are just to interact with you guys.
Yep.
So, you know,
Yep.
so anyway, so all right, guys, we appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching.
Yeah,
you can
sorry this
follow
went
me-
so long, but we enjoyed it. So
You can follow me on Instagram @hellbentjesse. Before you leave, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you are still subscribed. Make sure you turn on your notifications, because there is a podcast coming out on Wednesday. We are releasing a podcast on Wednesday, and we're releasing a new video, a new field investigation in the land between the lakes on Friday. So make sure you are tuned into that. Make sure you have your notifications on, because we have a Friday LBL video release. So
and
be ready for that.
don't be surprised if while I'm working out the kinks in this live stream night vision stuff, there's just not all of a sudden an unannounced
Live stream.
half-hour live stream and night vision. Our first one's going to have to be in an area that we know has pretty stable cell signal.
Yeah.
Luckily, there's some areas that are fairly close to us where there's been reports of some weird stuff going on. So don't be surprised if you get a notification one night all of a sudden that Hellbent Holler went live at 10:30 at night.
Yeah, we might randomly go live just to do a live stream.
And everything's
test.
green. So, you
Yeah.
know, so.
Like I said, make sure you pay attention, because Wednesday is going to be a new episode of Dark Dive. It is titled The Hidden War. What does the government know about cryptids? That was a really cool conversation. It's so good. We had so much fun with that. And then Friday, we're doing a release for a new LBL video that we did over the summer. And it's pretty good too. We make a weird discovery. So make sure you guys are there for that. So again, Wednesday and Friday, stay tuned. Turn on your notifications. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for asking us questions. Email us, get in touch with us. And this has been another Hellbent Holler live stream.